Tonight from Olympic Stadium in Montreal, you'll see Bonds, Clark, DeShields, and rookie sensation Mike Lansing.
ESPN Friday Night Baseball is next.
While the cost of players' salaries continue to escalate, some fans suggest baseball has lost its charm. And player loyalty, hey, who's the highest bidder? For almost $4.5 million a year, Barry Bonds provides bang for the buck. But in this paradoxical world of baseball, a veteran millionaire or a rookie can equally affect a game. While Major League Baseball's fifth highest paid player grabs the national headlines, in Montreal and Expo making the Major League minimum is doing the damage. Playing primarily because Delino DeShields missed 8 games with a chicken pox, Mike Lansing has been on a tear. Just 4 years after winning the College World Series at Wichita State, Lansing has emerged as the Expos' early season offensive leader. A proven star and a rising star meet next on ESPN. From Olympic Stadium in Montreal, two of the hottest teams in the National League match up as the Montreal Expos play host to the San Francisco Giants. Good evening, everybody. I'm Joel Myers alongside Buck Martinez, and welcome to Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Well, the Montreal Expos are also one of the youngest teams in Major League Baseball. 16 of their 25 players with less than 2 years of experience. And isn't it fitting, Buck, they're playing for a manager in only his second season, Felipe Alou.
Well, Felipe's perfect for this ball club. He's a patient guy. He understands what it takes to win. And he knows that they can't compete with the big free agent teams. They got to develop talent on their own. And they've got another good player in Mike Lansing. He's come on the scene with a smash, swinging the hot bat, and really playing like a veteran in the field. This is a good team that can do a lot of good things.
For the San Francisco Giants, when you've got Clark, Bonds, and Williams, you know you're going to have offense. But the most surprising aspect of their 10-6 start has been the pitching staff.
Well, it sure has. And Bonds brings his MVP credentials to this ball club, but he also brings an attitude. They believe that they can now win. He's given the pitchers an awful lot of confidence because he's provided a spark to the offense. The pitchers now know that they can come back from any deficit, as they did with this Matt Williams home run on Sunday against the Braves in extra innings.
Two of the highest scoring teams in baseball getting together at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. We'll be right back with the starting lineups. Thank you, John, and welcome back once again to Olympic Stadium. A decent crowd considering the Canadians aren't playing tonight. Last night, not many people at Olympic Stadium with the Canadians matching up with the Nordiques, and that's a war every time they get together. And what an overtime victory for the Montreal Canadiens. Well, if we didn't have a dome here in Montreal, it'd be a tough one tonight. It'd be like Wednesday night in Pittsburgh when it was 35 degrees for the first pitch of that contest. But fortunately, we are indoors. No chance of flurries in here. So we are just about ready to go. Dennis Martinez getting ready for his 5th start of the season. But first, let's take a look at the starting lineup. For Dusty Baker and the San Francisco Giants, the 34-year-old veteran will lead things off. The switch hitter, Willie McGee, former National League batting champion. Then it's Dave Martinez in his first year as a member of the Giants. In center field, Will Clark starting to sting the ball over at first base. He will bat third. The cleanup spot belongs to Matt Williams. He's off to a great start. Barry Bonds, an incredible beginning in his first season in the San Francisco uniform. The same can be said for Robbie Thompson, at least offensively. He's been around quite some time. Royce Clayton, the young man from Los Angeles, at shortstop with Kurt Manwaring behind the plate. And the pitcher is Trevor Wilson. But it's a righty going for the Montreal Expos. Buck.
Martinez, Presidente here in Montreal, and it's a situation where Martinez is off to another slow start, just like last year. Denny 0-3 so far, a couple of losses to Colorado, and it's a situation 1-4 last year. Right now, Martinez is throwing his curveball too hard.
Well, Buck, we've got some technical difficulties as we change your microphone right now. We're talking, of course, about Dennis Martinez and that slow start for him.
Well, Dennis is throwing his curveball too hard right now. What happens when you do that? It flattens out and it really stays along the plane of the bat. In between his last start and tonight, he had a real good workout with Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach, and both are very confident that he'll be able to get his season turned around here against the Giants tonight.
Defensively behind Martinez, maybe the best outfield in the National League. Alou, Grissom, and Larry Walker. They all run well, they cut down the gaps, and they all throw very well. Mike Lansing, of course, the third baseman. He's the story here in Montreal. He is a natural shortstop. He's moved over to third base after DeShields returned to the lineup, and he's playing very well. A rookie next to him, Will Cordero, and at first base tonight, Greg Colburn is back. He's had some arm problems, but he is an important cog in his Expos quest in '93. A good hitter, but he's had some arm problems, and he is just now rejoining the ball club.
So two very hot teams matching up. The San Francisco Giants taking 5 of their last 7. While the Montreal Expos come in with a 4-game winning streak. And Willie McGee will start it off for Dusty Baker, the 34-year-old native of San Francisco. 297 average last year, but so many in the Bay Area, when you talk about Willie McGee and the season he put together, said it was a very soft 297. He only scored 56 runs, not a lot for a leadoff man.
Well, you can bet he's going to score more runs this year with all the punch behind him, and this should be a good ballpark for Willie McGee to get on track here tonight in Montreal with the AstroTurf.
So Dennis Martinez tries to get it on track with that 0-3 mark. And it tails away on the fastball for ball 1. Willie McGee last year hit 4 ground balls for every fly ball. And I still think even at this point of his career, he would be better suited on an artificial surface as opposed to half of his games on that thick grass of Candlestick Park. Out of the strike zone again, 2-0.
Well, he might physically not feel as well playing on AstroTurf every day, but his average could certainly use the boost. His great years in St. Louis and Busch Stadium, beating that ball into the ground and taking advantage of his explosive speed down the first baseline.
The 2-0 for Martinez. Doesn't get the call, and it's 3-0.
With any pitcher, early innings are very important, but particularly with a guy like Martinez who's struggling, trying to gain some confidence. You hate to fall behind, and you see what happens. 579 leading off the inning as he tries to get ahead and finds the mark with a fastball.
And as you can see early, there's no doubt he's got good movement on his pitches. Now it's just controlling those pitches. Willie McGee so consistent for so long. But Denny Martinez, even when he got off to the slow start last year, he still had opponents hitting for just about a 200 clip when he started out in April last season at 1-4. But did he ever put it together over the last 8 weeks of the season? The 3-1 to McGee. Push fallen out of play. It's a full count at 3-2. But what Dennis Martinez did over the last 8 weeks of the season, his last 12 starts, a 7-2 record at a 1.80 earned run average. He really turned it on when the Expos needed him the most.
Well, with veteran pitchers, what happens, it takes them a while to get on track, but they're not unlike hitters. When they get hot, it takes a long time for them to cool off because they really find the groove and they know how to stay in it.
The full count delivery to McGee. Stays alive. Willie McGee's walk to strikeout ratio, not what the Giants wanted last year. Only 29 walks from the leadoff man compared to 88 strikeouts. Very high total for what you would basically consider a singles hitter.
He's always had that high strikeout rate, and everybody tries to change him, but his strength lies in swinging the bat. He doesn't have much of a strike zone up there. He's just letting it rip.
Last fastball just about 90 miles an hour, 89 to be exact. And McGee sends the fly ball into left field for Moises Alou. And that's the first out of the contest. Well, Denny Martinez lasting a little bit longer than he did 2 starts ago when he was thrown out after facing only a couple of hitters. Martinez last year, 5th best ERA in the National League at 2.47. Tied for 3rd in wins in the league with 16. The opponent's batting average, he held them down to a 211 mark, and that was 4th best. What a complete year it was for Dennis Martinez with that 16-11 record. Dave Martinez played for the Cincinnati Reds, former Montreal Expo as well. Also wore the uniform of the Chicago Cubs. Over the outside edge, strike 1. Had a very slow start for Dave Martinez. Felipe Alou in his 2nd season took over last May 22nd with the Expos with a 17-20 record. They played sensational baseball for their new manager, going 70-55 the rest of the way. The off-speed delivery, a ball and a strike.
Now that's the curveball, and that's an important pitch in Martinez's game plan tonight. He's got to get more break in it and back off the velocity a little bit. He has to change speeds with his curveball to disrupt the timing of the hitters. He has been hard with everything to this point. Subsequently, he's 0-3.
The 1-1 to Dave Martinez. Pulled over to the right side and through for a base hit into right. So a one-out single for Martinez, who starts the night hitting only 148. Tough to figure out Dennis Martinez. He came to the Montreal Expos in 1986, and the 83, 84, and 85 seasons, he had better than a 5.0 earned run average. He's turned it all around, especially over the last 3 years, where his ERA has been less than 3. Will Clark starting to turn it around at the plate. He has raised his average over the last 5 games better than 50 points, up to 197. Told you before the game he's stinging it now. He's got a good feel.
Yeah, Will Clark in that series in New York against the Mets didn't have many hits, but boy, he made good contact throughout the whole series. And he knows his swing as well as anyone. He said, I'm not changing a thing, man. He said, I'm under 200, but I'm swinging the bat better than I did last April when I hit 340.
Martinez back in time, held on by Colburn.
That's interesting because a player of less experience hitting under 200 would panic at this point. Not a guy like Will Clark, who has the several good years behind him. He knows it's going to turn around for him.
Great move over to first by Dennis Martinez. In fact, 17 runners were caught stealing with Martinez on the mound last year. That was the best in the National League.
Well, here's another aspect of being a veteran pitcher, knowing that you've got to give your catcher a chance. Vary your deliveries, change your unloading time.
There goes the runners. It's fouled away, and it's a ball and a strike. How tough is it for a Dennis Martinez working with a very young catcher? The regular catcher, Darren Fletcher, a left-handed hitter, is not behind the plate tonight. Instead, the one who hits from the right side of the plate, Tim Spear. How often does a veteran possibly shake him off as opposed to a veteran catcher back there?
Well, the relationship between pitcher and catcher is developed in the clubhouse prior to the game. You go over the lineup, you sit down, and Dennis will tell Tim Spear, this is what I want to do, and this is where I have most of my success. So basically, Martinez has called the game in the locker room, and Spear is just trying to remember what he wants to do.
1-1 to Will Clark. Drives it into the gap. Nobody will get to that one. And it's over the head of the center fielder, Grissom. That'll bring around Martinez. The Giants will have an early lead as Clark will hold up with an RBI double. Dave Martinez scores. It's 1-0 San Francisco. And for Will Clark, his second double as he continues the hot hitting that he's shown on this road trip.
Well, Will Clark found a hole. Let's take a look at this pitch. He hammers into right center. It's an off-speed pitch that stayed up about thigh high. Watch how he gets through the ball. Great extension and drives it beyond Marquise Grissom. When you get it through this outfield, you've done a job because they can close the gaps in a hurry. Clark, with the double and the RBI, has put the Giants out on top.
So back-to-back hits against Dennis Martinez, who has struggled already this year. And now it's a power hitter in the number 4 spot in Matt Williams. Over the inside edge for strike one. Matt dropped in just about every department offensively last year. And it also affected him in the field. But this year it's a completely different story, both at the plate and over at third base, where he's yet to commit an error. Young man out of UNLV. Can he capitalize with a man in scoring position? Drives it up the middle for a solid single. Clark is going to be held at third as Grissom gets it back in a hurry. And now it's runners at the corners. 3 consecutive hits for San Francisco. Don't forget they banged out 19 last night in New York in a 13-4 victory over the Mets.
Let me tell you something about this Giants ball club. They got a lot of confidence, and they're swinging the bats well, and this guy right here is off to a great start. His confidence is up. He's got a game plan now instituted by Bobby Bonds, the hitting coach. Both Dusty Baker and Bobby Bonds trying to implement thinking at the plate. And it's working so far for this Giants lineup.
First in slugging percentage in the National League, Barry Bonds with a .388 average. High and wide for ball one. So after retiring the leadoff man, Willie McGee on a fly ball to left, a single by Martinez. He came home to score on the RBI double by Will Clark. And now runners on the corners after the base hit by Matt Williams. And it certainly gets easy going to Barry Bonds, the next one in the lineup. The 1-0. Worked it nicely. Now, the sequence that he's probably talked to Spear about, is that everything away to Bonds? Don't let him get into that power area?
The one thing about Bonds is you cannot allow him to pick up on a pattern. He is so good with runners in scoring position, and his mind is such that he can really grind in these situations. You can't let him pick up a pattern. He'll wear you out.
Fisted down the left field line for a base hit for Bonds, an RBI single. Better than 500 now with men in scoring position. Clark touches the plate.
Benchman.
2-0 San Francisco. 4 straight hits now for the Giants. Came in on his hands.
Well, it's a breaking
really
ball,
fought it off.
and Bonds really stays back in it. Good hitters will think about the opposite field with runners in scoring position, not wanting to be out in front. Look how he stays back on this curveball, sitting back on that back leg and just takes it down the left field line to pick up the RBI. Younger, less experienced hitters will get over anxious and get on top of the ball. But he stayed back, shooting for the big part of the field, and picked up the ribby.
17 runs driven in now for Barry Bonds, tops in the National League, and it brings up Robbie Thompson. Breaking ball catches the corner for strike one. So Dennis Martinez continues to struggle here in the top of the first. It is 5th start of the season. Robbie Thompson already hitting better than 600 this year with men in scoring position. He is 8 for 13. Talk about a guy that has played in pain in recent years. He's missed some games already with tendonitis in his forearm. But still, he's got a high RBI total this season. He's knocked in 11. And it's 0-2. Mike Gardner already up in the Montreal Expos bullpen. Robbie Thompson and Will Clark solidifying that right side of the infield. They have started at first and second 7 straight years now for San Francisco. It's fouled straight back. Talk about continuity. The closest in the majors with that kind of consistency, the Chicago Cubs over on the right side with Grace and Sandberg. They've been together, though, only 4 years compared to the 7 for Robbie Thompson and Will Clark.
Well, that really helps you when you know the guy on your side is range. You know where he's going to be. You can overplay and overprotect. You really team well together.
0-2 count, advantage to Martinez. With 4 runs driven in yesterday for Robbie Thompson. And he breaks his bat on this one. The one hopper, second baseman Delano DeShields. That was his only play as the runners advanced to second and third. Williams down at third, Bonds at second. And that is the second out of the inning.
Martinez made a good pitch on Robbie Thompson there. Ran the fastball right in on his hands and sawed him off. He got the little flare, but the runners move up.
It's a magnificent ballpark. It's also one of the quietest I have ever been in. Very rarely do they make noise with the opposition at the plate. They'll make some noise when the Expos are up there. And now it's Royce Clayton, the young man from Los Angeles that went to St. Bernard's High School. He has yet to pick up a walk this season. That was his problem last year, going after pitches out of the strike zone. And he's got 16 strikeouts already. He's only 23, though. The runners at second and third. He could give a huge cushion to the San Francisco Giants early, and a nice breaking ball that time for Martinez.
Well, this is a key situation for the Giants. Go ahead and cash these extra 2 runs in. This Expo club could put some numbers on the board, too. So you'd really like to see Clayton come through against Martinez in this situation and pad that 2-run lead if you're sitting in that Giants dugout.
The 1-1. Down the right field line, Larry Walker moves over, and he's got it for the final out of the inning. But the Giants do come up with a couple. The RBI double by Clark, and the RBI single by Barry Bonds. We're right back to Montreal. Another strong start for the San Francisco Giants. As we look at the lineup now, Delano DeShields for the Montreal Expos leads things off at second. That is Mike Lansing, the sensation, over at third. Marquise Grissom bats third in center field. Going to be Larry Walker in the cleanup spot over in right field. Moises Alou gets the start tonight in left field. He will hit fifth with Will Cordero batting sixth. The young shortstop, he's only 21. Colbert, another youngster at first base, will bat seventh. The eighth spot, Tim Spear, the catcher. And the problems continue for the pitcher, Dennis Martinez. Problems as well for Trevor Wilson recently.
Things are getting better. Last time out against the Braves, he threw 7 strong innings, allowing just 7 hits, walked 5 batters. He'd like to improve on that, but you can see he hasn't won yet. ERA around 5. That'll come down. Fastball, cut fastball, curveball, and a straight changeup. You can see the 14 walks is something he's going to have to improve upon. Behind Wilson, the Giants defense. Left field, Barry Bonds, very shallow, outstanding outfield. Martinez and Darren Lewis are platooning in center field. Willie McGee with great speed in right. Matt Williams, Joel talked about his improved defense at third so far this season. Royce Clayton, the youngster, at shortstop. Robbie Thompson, maybe the heart and soul of this infield, along with Will Clark on the right side, and Kurt Manwaring. Keep your eye on him. He can really throw. Led National League catchers last year in throwing out base runners.
The first to DeShields. He promptly sends it for the gap in left center. Hustling over Martinez to Bonds, but it'll be a double for the very quick DeShields to begin the evening for Montreal. Well, at the top of the telecast, we talked about these two teams. The Montreal Expos, the highest scoring team in the National League. The San Francisco Giants, third in that department.
Could be a rough series for the pitchers when these two ball clubs get together, and DeShields didn't waste any time sending a message, hey, we're not going to roll over even though we're a couple runs down early. Look out, we're coming at you.
And when DeShields is down at second, don't forget he can steal third very effectively. He had 46 stolen bases last year. So a rocky beginning for the left-hander Trevor Wilson. And now Mike Lansing. What an incredible story. Wasn't even drafted out of Wichita State, despite the fact that the Shockers in his senior season won the College World Series. Takes ball 1. He was taken, though, by an independent team, the Miami Miracle. And now the miracle truly continues in Montreal. As you look at those numbers, a .371 average. And we've talked to so many people over the last couple of nights, and they all say it's not a fluke. This kid's for real.
He's hitting the ball hard, even making hard outs right now.
The fastball, even at a ball and a strike.
Lansing was hurt. He had back surgery in college, and that had something to do with the reason he wasn't drafted. But you can see, even for a rookie, he's coming through in the clutch, picking up those RBIs.
Inside corner, a ball and 2 strikes. Wilson gets the call.
Wilson doing a good job of pounding Lansing inside, and that's what they're going to try to do. They've got to try something to get this kid out. And even with a runner at second base, you want to crowd him, trying to eliminate that ground ball to the right side, in which DeShields could move over to third.
Now can he get the job done? Advance the man to third with less than 2 away. The breaking ball again, 2-2. Well, last year turned out to be a nightmare for 26-year-old Trevor Wilson. Started the season by undergoing surgery. That was in spring training. Started the year on the disabled list. With a benign growth from his rib. And his season ended with nerve problems in his elbow, so he didn't pitch at all over the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the season. Finished with an 8-14 mark. And he got Lansing on 1 out of the strike zone. Let's head back to John Saunders now for an update. John?
The Mets are on the board in a hurry as Bobby Bonilla, this one up in his eyes on the breaking ball, and he turns on it. Eddie Murray was aboard. He had walked the two-run shot. The Mets leading it 2-0 in the second. Back to Joel and Buck.
All right, John, in San Diego recently, the big question mark for the Padres, would they have more wins at the end of the year? The Florida Marlins and the Colorado Rockies, they were down on their Padres in Southern California. Andy Benes, though, another brilliant effort for the Padres last night. So the Mets get out on top early. And now it's Marquise Grissom. Young man with great speed. He's led the majors in stolen bases in each of the last 2 seasons. And now he tries to pick up Delino DeShields down at second base with San Francisco up by 2.
Now DeShields has had a chance to time Trevor Wilson now from second base. Let's see if he can get a walking lead there. They're going to chase him back. One thing that this speed does for you, it's a distraction to the pitcher. And when you're dealing with the number 3 and number 4 hitter in this lineup, you don't need any distractions.
Took something off that one, and it's a ball and a strike.
In last night's game against the Dodgers, Larry Walker was at the plate with DeShields at first base. Earl Hershiser was more concerned about the base runner, and Walker ripped a double over the left fielder's head, and DeShields scored from first.
.353 average against Trevor Wilson. Going after the high hard one, and it's a ball and 2 strikes.
First inning is always important with any pitcher, but especially for Trevor Wilson because he's so hyper. They really concentrate. Everybody on the infield and the catcher are aware that they just want to keep him as calm as possible. He gets himself so worked up on the mound, and sometimes it's to his detriment. So Kurt Manwaring early in the ball game is going to sit right in the middle of the plate. Not ask him to be real fine, just try to get a good solid start under his belt.
He's ahead of Grissom. A ball and 2 strikes with DeShields in scoring position. The grounder for Royce Clayton. And they're 2 down with Grissom. Will make it DeShields moving over to third. You make an interesting point. And as a former catcher, Buck, when you had a pitcher that was too tough on himself and he was his own worst enemy, just give him a target in the middle, maybe?
Just ask him to hit the biggest part of home plate possible. Then as he gets more confidence and starts registering outs, then you can move to the corners.
Larry Walker coming off a sensational 1992 season. Already above 400 this year. He had a couple of doubles last night. He's got 3 home runs so far. And now could he bring the man home with 2 away as he fouls it off to the left side for strike 1.
As good as Larry Walker's going right now, he was well aware of Trevor Wilson and the trouble he has against him. You can see that he's on a tear at the plate, but he never has much luck against Wilson because he has a tough time picking up the ball.
A little bit low. But Manwaring has to be happy with the location that we've seen from Trevor Wilson early. He's been right around the plate.
Well, Wilson had very good success with Mike Lansing. Made a couple of good pitches with the fastball inside and then got the slider inside to strike him out.
Off the hands, Clayton again. And after that leadoff double by DeShields, the Expos cannot capitalize as Wilson gets the job done. End of 1. It's a 2-0 lead for the Giants. And now third for the Montreal Expos. We spoke with him before the game, asked him what the transition was over to the third base because he was a minor league shortstop.
Well, basically the adjustment there is everything's going to be a lot quicker. You know, your reaction times are cut down and you just have to react a lot quicker. So you know, the first game I was a little nervous, you know, just didn't know how to handle it and what kind of balls would be hit, but you know, I feel pretty comfortable right now.
He's comfortable at the plate as well. Didn't capitalize in the first inning after that leadoff double by DeShields. And now let's see if Denny Martinez has settled down. Kurt Manwaring takes it over the outside edge for strike 1. Manwaring doesn't have to look over his shoulder now for the first time in the last couple of years. What a difference that must make because Decker was there and a couple of others over the last couple of seasons for the Giants. The bouncer for shortstop Will Cordero. That's out number 1. Well, if anybody is not going to be rattled after a rocky first, it's 37-year-old Dennis Martinez.
Well, the old saying is if you're going to get a tough pitcher, you better get him early. You can see how his career has turned around since coming over here to Montreal. He now is trying to get some work out there, make some adjustments, make his pitches, and establish that he can get ahead with all three of his pitches. There's a running fastball that the pitcher Trevor Wilson fouls off.
Last start for Dennis Martinez. He only lasted 5 innings against the Colorado Rockies, then a 9-1 loss, giving up 5 earned runs on 8 hits. Wasn't wild, though. He only walked 1. But it's rare when you only see 1 strikeout with a curveball that Dennis Martinez possesses. The 0-1. There's the breaking ball. And the slow roller for Colburn, the first baseman, with the second out of the inning. Well, what a change in direction in his career. You saw the numbers coming over in that 1986 trade with the Baltimore Orioles. Rene Gonzalez going to Baltimore for Dennis Martinez. Didn't make it to the All-Star game until he was 35 years old, and now they can't keep him out of the lineup at the All-Star game. He's made it 3 straight years.
Well, he is kind of a regular now because he has turned his career around. He turned his life around, too. He had a drinking problem before, and he took care of that, and now he's focused on baseball and taking care of his family. And boy, has he done a great job for this Expo club. Exactly what you need with a young team. A guy like Martinez that can go out there and give you a strong pitching performance every time he takes the mound.
Willie McGee flied out to the left fielder to start the contest, and it's tight for ball 1. Martinez has retired the first 2 in the second. McGee is switch hitter, operating from the left side of the plate. Nasty curveball. Ball and a strike. Great drop and bite to it.
Well, they're starting to get a little tilt to it now, and that's what Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach, is going to look for. Take a look at the angle of this curveball. Watch how the bottom falls out of it. And that's more a true Denny Martinez curveball than what he's thrown to this point so far this year.
1-1 breaking ball, shoots foul and out of play. It's a ball in 2 strikes. A lot of pitchers, when they don't have things going their way, they'll try to spot the fastball. But it seems like for Dennis Martinez, when he's struggling, he'll go to his bread and butter, which is the breaking ball.
And he has the ability to spot the breaking ball with different speeds, too. So that makes him that much more effective.
He's 5-6 lifetime in 17 games against the San Francisco Giants with a very respectable 3.18 earned run average. But he's trailing by 2 early tonight. The 1-2 to McGee. Beautiful. Right over the inside corner. Great placement of the fastball. We go to the bottom of the second with the Giants up by a couple. Back at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. You hear the Loos in the background. Moises Alou leading things off. And interesting situation. A young man playing for his father. And Moises made quite a run last year at Rookie of the Year honors until a hamstring injury in mid-July. Set him down for 3 weeks. And when he came back, he really had a tough 3-week stretch where he barely hit a .150. But he can cover plenty of ground out in left field. As he bounces it foul. And it's 0-2. Well, we've got some father-son combinations working tonight with the Alous and the Bonds. Bobby and Barry, #1 when it comes to long balls. And then you go down to Felipe and Moises. They are 8th on the all-time list for combined home runs. Up the middle, Royce Clayton ranging nicely. That's the first out of the inning.
Well, Alou hit it sharply, but it was cut off quickly by Royce Clayton, and the Giants are pretty excited about this kid's skills. He's got great range and instincts, and as soon as he becomes a little more confident that he can turn that throw loose, only trouble once in a while he'll uncork a wild throw, but man, has he got some reactions and some instincts.
You don't see too many shortstops that go at 6'2", but that's Will Cordero, the shortstop for the Montreal Expos. Takes the first one for ball 1. Signed when he was 16, the young man from Puerto Rico. As he drives it up the middle, and it's over the head of Dave Martinez, who misplayed it completely. Cordero on his way around second, and he's into third. It's a 3-base hit. They don't count mental mistakes in the box scores.
Well, Martinez got fooled on the way this ball carries, and Cordero beefed up over the winner, putting on 14 pounds of muscle, and Martinez expected this ball to fall in front of him, and it takes off right over his head all the way to the center field wall. Will Cordero worked hard this winter to gain some strength, and it's paying off early for him.
So another man in scoring position for the Montreal Expos. They had a leadoff double back in the first if you just joined us from Delano to Shields, but Lansing, Grissom, and Walker all failed to take advantage. Now it's another one that's very young in this Montreal lineup. Greg Colbran. And he takes it up at the outside corner for strike one. He's only 23. Grew up in Orange County, Fontana, California.
Giants will concede to run here with one out. He puts it on the ground. He's got to run. This is an aspect of young hitters that you like them to be aware when they step into the plate. Look around at the defense. It's early in the ball game. Your club's down by 2. You got one out. You make contact and drive it up to the middle infielders. You're going to pick up the RBI.
Ball and a strike to the first baseman. Going the other way, and it's 1-2.
So often you'll get young hitters in the box and think, oh man, if I hit a 2-run homer right here, it'll be a tie game. Hey, it's early. You got Dennis Martinez on the mound, who looks like he's got this stuff together now. Just pick up that RBI however you can do it. Hit a ground ball to the second baseman, a fly ball to the outfield. Cash in this base runner.
Colbran has driven in 1 so far this season. He just came off the disabled list. He breaks his bat, and it remains a ball and 2 strikes. Well, don't forget, the big day is Sunday on ESPN. It's NFL Draft Day. It'll all start at noon Eastern with Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, former Bills general manager Bill Polian, and Tom Jackson, who's going to be at the Patriots headquarters, as New England does have the #1 pick. What does Bill Parcells, the New England Patriots, what will they do with that #1 pick? Will they take one of those great quarterbacks, Drew Bledsoe, or Rick Meyer of Notre Dame? Find out with ESPN and the great crew that'll be hosting it all on Sunday. Advantage to pitcher Trevor Wilson. Mistake by his center fielder, putting him in a tight spot now in the bottom of the second. Cordero down at third with only 1 away. Colbran hanging tough. He was supposed to be the Montreal's Expos catcher for the next decade, but he suffered an injury. He missed the entire '91 campaign. He had surgery to his right elbow. It involved a tendon transfer, a Tommy John type operation. It was also done by the same doctor, Dr. Frank Jobe. That was the end of his catching career, but they like his ability at the plate so much they want to find a spot for him, and he drives it into left. It's an RBI single for Colbran. Cordero touches the plate, and it's 2-1 San Francisco.
What a good at bat for Greg Colbran. He fouled off a tough pitch and battled hard and picks up that triple. Boy, you got to cash in your scoring opportunities. And they believe that Colbran will be a good RBI guy. Out over the plate, and he hammers it down the left field line. Bonds, who plays shallow, can do nothing but cut it off and get it back to the infield.
Well, he had experienced tendonitis problems in that same elbow where they had the tendon transfer. He just came off the disabled list yesterday. And in good form in his first start since coming off the DL. Now it's Tim Spear. Darren Fletcher has been a very hot hitter. He's been catching most of the way in the early going for the Montreal Expos, but Spear is getting the start against the lefty tonight.
Well, it's important that you don't sit a guy down early in the season and let him forget about spring training. Get him right in there when you got a chance and let him feel a part of the ball club too. He's got the left-hander on the mound tonight.
Popped up, foul territory, straight back here, and it'll be out of play.
It would be easy for Felipe Alou to think about Fletcher and his hot bat and continue to put him in the lineup, but it's a long season and you need to keep everybody's confidence up.
Fletcher did deliver the game-winning hit last night in a 3-1 victory over the Montreal Expos.
Jerry Manuel, the third base coach. Tim Spear studying his signs. This club will play hit and run even with these guys. Colbran, the former catcher, as Joe mentioned, not blessed with great speed, but Spear can make contact.
Can't believe another catcher in the booth admitted that.
Yep. Some of us didn't run very well.
The 1-1 to Spear. Fly ball for Barry Bonds. And that is out number 2. Let's head back to John Saunders now for an update. John.
Detroit Tigers, Minnesota Twins. That's Scott Erickson on the mound facing Tony Phillips. And Phillips, leading the American League in hitting with a .429 pace, gets this home run over the left field wall. The Tigers 17 home runs already this season. Back to Joel and Buck.
What is with the baseball this year? Because it's leaving the yard at an alarming rate.
Well, with all due respect to Tony Phillips, he went opposite field in the Metrodome. That ball is jumping. Boy, the Tigers, they're playing pretty well. 9-5 on the season going into tonight's game. They've already won 3 games in which they've scored 3 runs. Getting some pitching. David Wells 3-0 for the Tigers. Picked up right at the start of the season.
Martinez fouls it away. Strike 1 count of the pitcher. Colburn, the runner, over at first. Dennis Martinez 3 for 5 at the plate so far this season.
There's a lot of hitters that wish they were 3 for 5. It's such an advantage when you can have a pitcher that swings the bat. You just don't check in with an out.
Down the middle, 0-2. The Expos have plated 1, though, here in the second to draw within a run. After San Francisco had 2 in the first against Martinez. Ball and 2 strikes. Trevor Wilson, you talk to the Giants, and they talk about how he can't get down on himself. So often now you hear about pitchers going to sports psychologists like John Smoltz of the Atlanta Braves to help them overcome those battles that they have within.
You know, so many pitchers take everything so intense on every particular pitch. They put themselves in a situation where they feel anything less than perfect is a failure. And that's too much pressure for anybody to handle. Utilize your defense. Give them a chance to help you out. You don't have to be perfect for 9 innings. You just have to throw the ball over the plate, change speeds once in a while. That's something that he's improved upon this year. Pretty good pitch right there, just missed.
And now it's a full count to Martinez. Well, the last start for Trevor Wilson was a sound one. He did not give up a run in 7 innings of work, giving up 7 hits. But he did walk 5. He had problems with control early. The 3-2. And Colburn will come back to first. He can keep the inning going. Delino to Shields, who already has a double tonight. Ready to hit.
Joe, you had mentioned how Dennis Martinez had turned his career around late in his career. A lot of pitchers don't understand the fact that if you throw it over and you change speeds and you mess with the hitter's timing, you can be successful. And it takes a guy like Trevor Wilson quite a while before he believes in this. He wants to make perfect pitches, and he's afraid of giving up hits. We talked about how Bonds brings a new confidence to this team and how the pitchers now know, hey, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to shut out the opposition. We've got some thunder on the bench, and we're going to score a lot of runs. So maybe Trevor Wilson this year will be able to be a little bit easier on himself and recognize that if he puts it in play, he's got a chance.
Colburn over at first getting quite a workout here. That's the 21st pitch in the inning for Trevor Wilson. So go back to what pitching coaches say when they call a pitcher a veteran. They go, he's a pitcher. He's a true pitcher. Or sometimes they refer to the youngsters as quite a thrower.
You got great stuff.
Hasn't refined the game quite yet. And the track meet continues for Greg Colburn. Milwaukee Brewers with a lead over the red-hot Texas Rangers.
John Olerud, one of the hottest hitters in the big leagues this year, and there's that Tony Phillips home run. Strawberry starting to come around a bit.
5 foul balls this at bat for Martinez. She loops it up the middle, and it will drop in for a 1-out or 2-out single as Martinez was looking to the base runner. Now he's going to try to score the throw to Manwaring. He's out at the plate. Goldbrun coming around third after it was bobbled momentarily by Dave Martinez. He is the final out of the inning, but still the Expos get one. And after two, trail by one.
A twin blade from...
All right, John. Vic Raschi on the mound for those Redbirds for Henry's home run. 2-1, San Francisco with the lead over Montreal. It was almost a tied-up affair, though. Dave Martinez having his problems in center field. Aggressive move by the Montreal Expos and the base runner Goldbrun.
Well, they've got a gamble. The base runner is on the move with 2 outs, and Denny Martinez had a good at-bat. Flares in front of Dave Martinez, and when he bobbles it, Jerry Manuel with the windmill go ahead to Goldbrun, but you can see Robbie Thompson's throws on the money, and Kurt Manwaring hangs on for the out. But the Expos, they're going to be gamblers. They're going to go for things. They've got to force the issue.
Now, it's the first game of the series, the first time the two teams have seen each other this year. You think they were possibly trying to make a statement, Buck?
You bet. They're trying to feel each other out and see what's working. Dusty Baker believes that the first game of the series is the most important for his ball club. He wants to come in and set the tone for the series. He's going to push it in game 1 of the series that he takes his team into this year. Says, hey, then you can protect against having a bad game if you've already got 1 W under your belt.
Dave Martinez will start it off for the Giants in the third. San Francisco has a 2-1 lead. Martinez fouls it away at a base hit, his first at bat against Dennis Martinez. Tough year last year for Dave Martinez, his only year in a Cincinnati uniform. He started back at the Cub system back in '83. Then he came to Montreal in '88, a deal for Mitch Webster. Then he went to the Reds. Last year was his only year there. And finally, he goes as a free agent to San Francisco. The deal that sent him to Cincinnati has meant a lot to the Montreal Expos, though, because he was traded for pitcher John Wetland. Fouls it off to the left side, 0-2. But he dropped all the way down to 254 last year in his Reds single season there in Cincinnati after hitting 295 in '91. And the 295 was a career best.
He's been a very good role player wherever he's stopped, and he really likes the situation here in San Francisco. A lot of guys on this club think they can win it all.
Tap foul. A lot of people forget back in 1989 in a Montreal Expo uniform, he was sharing center field with Otis Nixon. Not a bad combo.
And they're in a pretty good situation here, too, with Darren Lewis, the right-handed batting center fielder.
So now it's an 0-2 count. Martinez with a 1-2-3 second after going up against 7 Giants in the first when they score their 2 runs. Martinez, Clark, and Williams coming up for San Francisco. Important batter for Dennis Martinez to keep off the bases before the 3, 4, and 5 hitters for the Giants. For the shortstop, Cordero. Tough play, and he's got Martinez who can motor. Well, Will Clark gets ready to hit. He had an RBI double his first at bat. He feels like he's got the stroke again. A lot better than even last year.
I've swung the bat better this year than I have last year. I'm averaging anywhere from 3 to 4 line drive outs a game, and you know, the perfect example has been the last 3 games in New York. I've got 15 line drives and I've got 3 hits to show for it. So you know, it's one of those things that's very frustrating right now. Not frustrating to the point where it's working on me, but frustrating to the point knowing that you're doing your job, knowing that you're hitting the ball real hard and just not falling.
Will Clark above the 200 mark now, average-wise. Just 5 games ago, he was about 140. That's the way he started to turn it on, up to 210. It's early, very early, and he's not the type, as he mentioned to you, Buck, to go into the video room and pour over tapes either.
Now, he says, I know my stroke by feel. I know when things are right and when things are wrong, and right now they're as good as I hope to get them. Just haven't had much luck tonight. He opened up things here with a double.
You know, you look at his numbers last year, a 300 average, 16 home runs, 73 runs driven in. Now, those numbers for most players aren't bad. They represented the worst numbers in his career since his '86 season, which was his rookie year. Took something off that one. 2 balls and a strike.
You know, I think you can look at 1992 with the Giants, and just kind of put a blanket coverage over that whole season and say, hey, there was so much uncertainty with the future of the ball club that it wore on everyone, even a guy like Will Clark, who's so confident of his skills.
The 2-1. Tailing away from the left-hander. He caught the outside edge. It's 2-2. Bases empty, 1 away.
Starting to look like the Dennis Martinez of old. Good running fastball at the knees, down and away from the left-handed hitter.
He has now set down 6 in a row after 4 consecutive hits back in the first for San Francisco. And it's a full count to Clark. To a man, though, the Giants will tell you it was an exasperating experience what they went through last year, not knowing in the second half of the season where they were going to be, the future of the ball club, where the franchise was going to be placed. Fortunately for the fans in San Francisco, it's right back in the Bay. And Clark helped out Martinez, but that's a tough one to lay off of on a 3-2 delivery. Sunday night, more great baseball comes your way. So join John Miller and Joe Morgan at 8 Eastern. Roger Clemens already 3-0 with a 1.48 earned run average this year, going up against JT Snow. Snow with a couple of home runs last night, and the California Angels playing host to the Red Sox, and they're the home run leaders. Snow on top along with Albert Bell and Ken Griffey Jr., Dean Palmer as well. Those are the 2 hottest teams in the American League. They're on top of their division. The 9-4 Angels on top of the West. The 11-5 Red Sox. Sunday night, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern. And
but
the Angels
Rogers,
have to be the big surprise in all of baseball.
Are they off to a quick start with a bunch of unknown players?
So Dennis Martinez now with a couple of strikeouts. That last one, Will Clark and Matt Williams. Watches it dart down low. It's 2-0. Williams with a solid single up the middle in his first confrontation with a right-hander. He dropped all the way down to 227 last year. And he also had 11 fewer home runs. 20 round trippers compared to 31 the year before. The problem for Matt Williams, though, was he couldn't capitalize on those RBI opportunities. Only a 208 average with men in scoring position. And you don't think it will affect a veteran when he goes out to the field. But he committed more errors than any other third baseman in the National League.
It's very difficult to separate the two, particularly when you're missing so many scoring opportunities. The movement on that fastball.
3-1 now to the third baseman.
Starting to spot his fastball, change of speeds. He hasn't had a real good split finger pitch to this point of the season, and tonight it's been much better. Down in the strike zone with real good arm action.
Great placement again. Even at 3-1, he does not give in to the hitter.
Take a look at where the catcher is sitting. Outside corner. Tim Spears squares up on the outside, and Dennis Martinez paints the black with a moving fastball. Started off the plate and broke in just enough to catch the black for a strike.
He set him down in order in the second. He's trying to do the same in the third, and the payoff pitch to Williams. Ball 4. That stops a string of 7 in a row retired by Denny Martinez.
Comes up to the plate for the second time. He hit a curveball the first time up against Martinez. That tells me that he's looking off speed stuff. So Dennis might have to change up and try to come upstairs with the fastball, see if he can get Bonds to chase and maybe get the pop up.
Barry knocked in the second run of the evening for the Giants with a single. He went the other way. And it's ball 1. And what kind of start has it been for Barry Bonds this year? The change of uniform did not bother him one bit. First in slugging percentage, first in doubles. Leads the National League in RBIs now with 17. Second in home runs with 4. Down the middle. It's a ball and a strike.
Some of the Giants players in the clubhouse before the game were telling me how they are now beginning to understand just how good Barry Bonds is. Not only at the plate, but in the field. When you see him from across the field, you don't really have a true appreciation of his skills day in and day out.
outside corner, 1-2.
Bonds suggesting that it was outside to the umpire, but the umpire has been very consistent. Brian Gorman behind the plate calling that outside corner. Martinez has his catcher set up outside and once again delivers right on the knees on the outside corner. You don't worry about an umpire as long as he's consistent. Same pitch throughout the 9 innings.
Matt Williams aboard at first, trying that 2-out walk, the first walk issued by Dennis Martinez, and now a 1-2 count to Barry Bonds. 52 pitches thrown thus far by Martinez, but don't forget he faced 7 in the first inning alone. Look where Spears sets up. Didn't miss the target by much either. 2-2.
Bonds has a pretty good plan right here in this at bat. Still looks like he's looking for breaking ball. And that's something that Bobby Bonds, the hitting coach, has passed along to these giant hitters this year. Take a plan with you to the plate. Sit on a pitch, and that's what Barry Bonds appears to be doing right now.
The 2-2. And it's tight. So another full count after walking Matt Williams. Barry Bonds led the league in runs scored last year, and so often we all talk about home runs, runs driven in, how many hits they got through the course of the season. I think that's the most underrated number in all of baseball. Runs scored. He leads the National League in runs scored already this year. Chopper for the first baseman, just foul. Here's a throwback, Matt Williams.
Matt Williams and Robbie Thompson, second and third baseman for this Giants ball club, are kind of like old-time players. Yes. I think the dirtier they get, the happier they are, which means they're involved in a lot of action.
They love him at the stick in San Francisco. A 3-2 count to Barry Bonds. Already has 4 home runs this season. And with Williams going with 2 away, it's ball 4, so back-to-back walks. After he had set down 7 in a row.
But Martinez just would not give in to either Matt Williams or Barry Bonds. He has 2 outs. He's got pretty good command of his pitches right now. And he believes that he might be able to get Robbie Thompson out in this situation and strand a couple more giant runners.
Robbie Thompson, though, a very hot hitter. He knocked in 4 runs yesterday. 4 of the 13 scored by the Giants against the Mets. The breaking ball for strike 1.
Robbie Thompson is going to have plenty of these opportunities because there aren't going to be a whole lot of pitchers that are ever going to want to give in to Williams and Bonds. He's liable to have a huge year just because there's runners on so often.
He can always tell his kids, hey, the 93 season, I provided the protection in the order for Barry Bonds. Off the bat handle. Did he break it? Yes. And it's 0-2. It's been a struggle early for Dennis Martinez, at least as much as he's thrown.
He had a breeze in the second. But once again, he's up in the third, 25 pitches. A couple of good at-bats from Bonds and Williams added to that high total. Well, he's way out in front of Robbie Thompson, who had to go back to the dugout and get some new lumber.
And the problem in recent years for Robbie Thompson, hitting in the clutch. He had only a .205 average with men in scoring position. That was the 7th lowest in the league last year. In a lifetime, only .217 in those situations. And he capitalized with Williams down at second. Barry Bonds with a healthy lead over at first. But Thompson in the 0-2 hole with 2 away. A 2-1 lead for San Francisco as they try to add to it in the top of the third. That's where Spear was. It was a little high, and it's 1-2. Longest losing streak in the career of Dennis Martinez, 4. He's dangerously close, dropping his first 3 decisions of the season. The 1-2. The breaking ball. And the second baseman, DeShields, had him positioned perfectly for the final out of the innings. The Giants stranded a couple. They've left 4, but still lead by 1. DeShields leads it off, takes ball 1 from Trevor Wilson. And when you're in Montreal, you always have to worry about the concrete delay. Fortunately, there is no concrete falling this evening at Olympic Stadium.
Well, I think they've got all the concrete fixed around here, but man, they're going to have to reinforce all those backboards in the NBA.
Well, 1-0 to DeShields. It's a ball and a strike. Buck and I get to the ballpark. I guess it's about 3:30 this afternoon. We're walking to drop our bags off up in the booth, and Buck says, look at those new structures. They've reinforced the concrete here. And we were under it at the time, and boy, did I make a hard left turn. It's tight. It's 2-1.
Yeah, you notice where I was walking. Away from...
Right behind me.
Over there.
It was like stripes. I'll be behind you every step of the way. 2-1 count to the leadoff man. It's a painful look on Trevor Wilson's face when he delivers the ball. It's 3-1. He is tough on himself. That's what the Giants will tell you, one of his biggest problems. He led San Francisco in wins and earned run average a couple of years ago. He had 13 wins back in '91. And he walks the leadoff man. Let's head back to John now for an update.
Well, if you can have a battle between expansion teams, then this is it. Florida and Colorado, and Charlie Hayes has been having a pretty good year. His 4th home run of the year. This one a 3-run shot, and the Rockies lead the Marlins 4-0 in the 2nd. Back to you.
All right, John, the Expo announcers told us they've already been to Colorado. They said that is a pitcher's nightmare of going into that stadium.
Yeah, you don't want to be half-stepping when you go into Mile High Stadium this year.
1 out of every 8 leadoff men he walks in. To give you an idea of how high that is, the most in the National League last year, well, Bobby Witt, who's always been considered someone who has had problems with his control, has that exact same ratio, 1 out of every 8. So that's been a concern as well for the Giants when it's Trevor Wilson on the mound.
Well, it's just too many opportunities to allow that guy to advance. So many things can happen. Play hit and run. You can steal a base. Go first to third on a base hit.
There's the miracle at the plate. Waiting for the first delivery. That's Mike Lansing. Played A ball for the Miami Miracles. They were an independent at the time. They probably had such a great year that they were taken by a team a year later. No longer are they an independent team.
Well, Felipe Alou was managing in the league that year, and he noticed Mike Lansing and went over to him after a game one day and said, hey, you keep playing the way you are, you're going to end up in the big leagues. And when he became the manager over here, he said, go out and give me that Lansing kid. I like him. He's fallen in love with him this year. That's Tim Johnson on Alou's right. He's helping Lansing make the adjustment defensively.
Stolen base man over at first. Delano DeShields. The bunt by Lansing fouled away. And it's 0-1. Well, Lansing also very good on the bases. He had 46 steals last year at Double-A. That's been the trend. We talked about it on Wednesday night. Forget about Triple-A. If you like what you see at the Double-A level, take them straight to the majors.
Well, economically, a lot of clubs are gambling on younger players. Can't afford to have a whole 25-man roster of veteran players anymore, so you go ahead and try to force the issue and allow some young players to come maybe a tad before they're really ready.
Pitch out. The Shield's not going anywhere, and it's a ball and a strike.
Well, here's that running game and how it wears on both the pitcher and the catcher. Kurt Manwaring called for the pitch out. Dick Pohl sitting next to Dusty Baker, giving the signs of the catcher for throwovers and pitch outs. Trevor Wilson had 7 balks last year. He has a borderline move where he'll step toward first base. Then he'll go home. Had 2 more called this spring. Bad thing about that is the umpires know that, and they might be anticipating a bad move.
He's got a distraction over at first base. There's no doubt about that. He's induced 5 double play balls already. That's what he's looking for. Lansing lays down the bunt. Williams with only 1 play with Delano DeShields on the move. And that is the first out. But the sacrifice is good. Goes 5-3 on the putout. And now the man in scoring position with only 1 away as they look for the equalizer.
Number 2 hitter on this ball club is very important. You got to be patient and allow Delino DeShields to steal. You got to move the runner up to get an RBI position for Marquise Grissom and Larry Walker.
He used to be a leadoff man, Marquise Grissom, but he showed so much power. When he came up to the Montreal Expos, they had to drop him out of the leadoff spot. He knocked in 66 last year. He has driven in 10 so far this season. 0 for 1 tonight. He grounded out to the shortstop back in the first. He has not taken off in the stolen base department, though. Like he got that quick jump out of the gate last year when he had 78 steals.
Still not really swinging the bat the way he's capable.
There's the tying run down at second. Great speed for Montreal. And it's low. 2-0. Larry Walker, the hottest Expo hitter, is coming up next. Such a young team. Young man at the plate, only 25 years old, from College Park, Georgia. We talked about at the top of the telecast, 16 of the 25 on the roster. 2 years or less in experience at the major league level. This is only the 3rd year for Marquise Grissom. Turns on it. Tough one for Matt Williams. Nice play. Second out of the inning. Don't forget, more tennis comes your way on ESPN. The Volvo Monte Carlo Open. It's the semifinal with the number 2 player in the world, Stefan Edberg, taking on Cedric Fielding. So join us as Edberg, 21-6 in tournament play so far this year, but he had his problems in Asia, dropping out of the number 1 spot. Or actually, that was Jim Courier that dropped out of the number 1 spot. Edberg is number 3 still. So the number 3 player is taking on Fielding. Join us tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. The Monte Carlo Open. Right here on ESPN. Well, the highest scoring team in the National League is having problems with men in scoring position so far this evening as Larry Walker takes strike 1. Walker also grounded out at the shortstop. His first at bat. A native of Canada, Maple Ridge, British Columbia. The breaking ball.
Cal Eldred with 10 strikeouts through 7 innings. Ron Karkovice off to a pretty good start at the bat. He showed you that Tony Phillips home run.
The 0-2, Walker up the middle. Good play by Royce Clayton. He can cover plenty of ground. The 23-year-old from Los Angeles has it over to Clark for the final out of the inning. After 3, it's still the Giants by 1. ESPN's Friday Night Baseball is brought to you by Turtle Wax Color Magic. Enriches your car's color. Turtle Wax Color Magic. And by Fleer Baseball Cards. Fleer, a game in every pack. We're at one of the biggest ballparks you will ever see. Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Joel Myers along with Buck Martinez and Dennis Martinez gets ready to deal to Royce Clayton, the San Francisco Giants shortstop. As the Giants have a 2-1 lead in the top of the 4th inning. Dennis Martinez persevering. Despite the great stuff that we saw from him last year, another slow April for the 37-year-old from Nicaragua. Stays upstairs. It's a ball and a strike. Well, there's been a lot of controversy regarding the scoreboard out in center field. It is now off when the visitors hit. It remains on when the Montreal Expos are at the plate, but the Cardinals, the Braves, the Dodgers, a number of teams complained that it was a real distraction. They did not like playing here with that scoreboard on. Over to the right side for Colbrin. Charges it for the easy play, and that's the first out in the 4th. Let's head back to John Saunders. John?
Toronto Blue Jays were coasting along with a 3-0 lead, but then things fall apart for Al Leiter with the bases loaded after a walk over the first run. Ron Karkovice comes up with this double. 3 runs come in to score, including Bo Jackson all the way from first. He had walked to drive in the first run. Right now it's 5-3 in the 4th. Joel and Buck.
All right, John, that has been a problem for the Toronto Blue Jays. their pitching staff, and they were hoping Leiter would be one of the bright spots.
Well, Jack Morris is off to a slow start. Juan Guzman had 2 bad outings before he turned it around. Al Leiter had a very good outing his first time out, but hasn't been able to repeat that.
Kurt Van Waring grounded out to the shortstop. The 1-0 breaking ball. When all else fails, look for the curveball from Martinez.
Well, the thing that he does is he'll throw it at different speeds, at different arm angles, and really multiplies his 3 basic pitches to about 7 or 8 different pitches.
The last 5 years, he has been so consistent in the ERA department. Only once over the last 5 years was it over 3, and that was 3.18. Gets him to hit it to the right side for second baseman Delino DeShields for the second out of the inning. Then we were talking about the way they work hitters, and the pitcher and the catcher get together long before the game, but they aren't the only ones that are privy to that knowledge because of the defensive positioning.
Well, when you have Martinez on the mound working with Tim Spear, the defenders have to know what your game plan is as well. One of the coaches will go to the infielders and give you an idea of what you want to do. All that's out the window if the pitcher can't locate. And right now, Martinez is hitting his spots, so the defenders are lined up perfectly just on that, like that last ground ball out to DeShields.
Well, the even innings so far have been kind to Dennis Martinez. The odd innings, definitely odd. 7 men he faced in the first, and it was 5 in the third as Trevor Wilson tried to lay down the bunt. It's strike 1.
Well, it's not a coincidence that in the odd innings he's facing 3, 4, and 5, and that's where the trouble lies.
You've got to keep the top 2, the table setters, off the base now. Willie McGee and Dave Martinez for the San Francisco Giants, because in 3, 4, and 5, Clark, Williams, and Bonds fouled off to the left side. It reminds you of what was going on for San Francisco with Kevin Mitchell putting together those 47 home runs and 125 RBIs for the Giants in the '89 season when they won the National League pennant. Ever since, though, they've had so many pitching problems, 90, 91, and 92, all the way down to 72 and 90, their record last season. And then they made the move away from Roger Craig over to Dusty Baker.
And then Dick Pohl came in as Baker's pitching coach. Pohl had been with the Cubs before as their pitching coach and had a lot of success there. You know, the pitchers on this staff have really gotten tired of hearing, hey, if the Giants just had some pitching, maybe they could win it. And Dick Pohl's pitching staff has said, hey, we take offense to that, and we're going to go out and show you we're capable pitchers. And they've done that so far.
The 1-2 to Wilson. Hangs in there.
Rod Beck, particularly the closer for the Giants, has been very demonstrative in his thoughts about this pitching staff. He said, hey, we're not hardly as bad as everybody says we are. Beck and Dave Righetti to his right, they believe that they have a pretty good mix both down in the bullpen and in this rotation.
The 1-2 to Trevor Wilson. Old Uncle Charlie got him. A 1-2-3 inning for the second time for Dennis Martinez. He has not given up a base hit since the first. We go to the bottom of the fourth with San Francisco up by 1.
The Twins' Scott Erickson usually cruises against Detroit 7-0 lifetime, but he is struggling on this evening. Travis Fryman, 3-run home run, his 4th homer of the year. It's 4-zip. They're still in the 3rd. Get back to Joel and Buck.
All right, John, we're in the bottom of the 4th. San Francisco leading the Montreal Expos 2-1. The Expos with a 4-game winning streak coming in. They just swept the Los Angeles Dodgers as Moises Alou goes after the first one, fouling it away for strike 1. Alou, Cordero, and Colbrin coming up. And our friends watching on ESPN tonight, after I said Alou, they said who? Cordero and Colbrin. You'll hear a lot about those two in the near future. Moises looking to fly a ball for Barry Bonds. It'll drop in as the sinking liner gets in for a leadoff single.
Very difficult to dunk a ball in front of Barry Bonds because he plays so shallow, but it was off the end of the bat, just a little flare down the left field line. Bonds did a good job to come up with it on the high hop to keep Alou at first base. He plays a very shallow left field and plays it very well.
And we'll probably see some throws over to first base now with Alou aboard. Another one with outstanding base stealing potential for the Montreal Expos. In fact, Montreal 15 of 18 in the stolen base department already this year. Will Cordero. He had a triple, somewhat of a gift triple, as it was misplayed by the center fielder. And back in the second, and Montreal scored their only run thus far. The breaking ball for strike one.
Well, that goes back to the first meeting between these two teams this year. They're not really familiar with Cordero and how he's beefed it up over the wintertime. That line drive he hit to center field took off. Sailed right over Martinez's head.
6'2", 185 pounds. A 21-year-old from Puerto Rico. They saw enough that they liked him last year. There's the double play ball. Thompson on to Clayton. And finally, Will Clark. Robbie Thompson, one of the very best at getting rid of it in a hurry and turning the double play.
Well, Royce Clayton is very fortunate to have such a veteran like Robbie Thompson as his double playmate. He gave him that good dish and gave a good throw to Clayton, who was able to take it and fire on to first base. And Trevor Wilson takes advantage of a very solid double play combination behind him to erase that leadoff single by Alou.
So now the bases are empty with two away. For first baseman Greg Colbert, who's knocked in the only run of the night for Montreal. RBI single back in the second. And another one that's only 23 for Felipe Alou. I tend to, you look around the majors now, I like the trend. Felipe Alou, Dusty Baker taking over. There's a trend where there are managers taking over now that truly can relate, not quite contemporaries of the ball players, but still close enough. There's the bouncer. Let's face it, Dusty Baker just retired in 1986. He can truly still relate to what's going on at the big league level in the 90s. So the Expos are gone, trailing by one. Once again to Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Joel Myers with Buck Martinez, two pitchers that have been struggling. Trevor Wilson, also Dennis Martinez, starting to find a rhythm.
Wilson, for the second time in a row, throwing the ball very well, and the Giants might look back to that first inning against Dennis Martinez when they didn't cash in those extra 2 runs, because he's really found the groove.
That's also been the story for the Montreal Expos tonight, failing to capitalize with men in scoring position. Now Dennis Martinez works to the Giants at the top of the 5th. Top of the batting order with Willie McGee. Two important hitters now for Martinez. McGee and Dave Martinez. And quickly ahead of McGee at 0-2. Switch hitter is 0-2. 0 for 2 on the night, flying out to the left fielder. Also striking out, one of 3 strikeouts for Dennis Martinez. That's going to be a key for everybody this year. Can you keep the first 2 off base for San Francisco? No balls and 2 strikes.
Well, you don't want to allow these guys to get on and set the table for 3, 4, and 5. Bobby Bonds has done a remarkable job of learning his team's hitters early on. He said in the 6 weeks of spring training, he got to know his hitters probably better than they know themselves, studying all the intricacies of what makes for a good swing for each of the individual hitters. It's quite a quick study that you have to do when you join a new ball club.
The 0-2 to McGee. Ball and 2 strikes. And while you're talking about Bobby Bonds, the first base coach and also the hitting instructor for the San Francisco Giants, what a great situation. He grew up in Riverside, California, and who was a boyhood friend? Dusty Baker. They go way back. So a very comfortable position for Bonds and Baker. And Willie McGee strikes out for the second time tonight. We talked about that at the top of the telecast. Too many strikeouts last year for a leadoff man. You're right back to Olympic Stadium. Let's head back to John Saunders again.
Budweiser taking us out to Milwaukee now. The Rangers and the Brewers, and Cal Eldred is having a heck of a game here on the outside corner. He gets Jose Canseco his 10th strikeout. He's retired 21 Rangers in a row and allowed just 1 hit here in the 8th inning. Right now, let's take you back to Joel and Buck in Montreal.
All right, John. Well, that cold weather is not bothering the Brewers pitcher in Milwaukee this evening.
Well, he came up the second half of last year and just took over from American League hitters. You get a lot of strikeouts when you face that Ranger team. They're a free swinging bunch.
Dave Martinez had a base hit. Came around to score one of the 2 giant runs back in the first. He is 1 for 2 now after grounding out at the shortstop. Dennis Martinez has set 5 down in a row now. That's high, and it's a ball and a strike.
Well, Dennis Martinez came into this game trying to get the curveball back, and you can see he has not allowed a hit since the first inning. 4 strikeouts. That tells me that he's got tilt in his curveball again.
He has thrown 78 pitches, though. He needs some economical innings now, the middle portion of the game. Cordero. And that is the second out in the 5th.
Let's look back at Will Clark's first at bat against Martinez in the first inning. The first pitch, the last pitch, is a fastball in the first inning. Out away from him, and he jumps all over it, drives it to center. Now this is his second at bat in the 3rd inning. With 2 strikes, Martinez comes with a curveball and gets a strikeout. But it was a tight breaking curveball, and it had a lot of downward break on it. Out of his hand, Clark thought it was a fastball. So he's got that good hook working tonight.
And it came on a 3-2 delivery. First one is wide for ball 1. So an RBI double for Clark in his first at bat. You saw strikeout the second time. And now he matches up with Martinez in the 5th. The base is empty, 2 down. And all the scoring in this contest to the first two innings. 2-0. Now this is an interesting pitch coming up from Dennis Martinez. The bases are empty, but he is down by a run. Does he give in a little bit to Will Clark?
No. You never give in to a Will Clark, and Martinez has the ability to go ahead and spot his pitches. Watch where the catcher sets up outside. Martinez came with a fastball.
Challenged him.
Yeah,
2 balls and a strike.
Look at the smile on his face. Yeah.
Like you got away with one, Denny.
This is the old cat and mouse game that makes the batter pitcher confrontation so interesting. 2 real classy guys that think a lot. Martinez trying to mess with Clark's mind a little bit, and Clark kind of looked at him out of the corner of his eye and said, yeah, you got away with one right there.
Again for Will Cordero. And another 1-2-3 inning for Dennis Martinez. We move to the last of the 5th. The Expos are still down by 1. Any difference what location you put Winfield in or uniform? He still gets it done as Tim Spears starts it off against Trevor Wilson.
You know what's amazing about Dave Winfield? He's been able to maintain great bat speed. He really can still swing that lumber.
He's in phenomenal shape.
Oh.
Really stays fit.
What was it, just 3 years ago he missed the whole season after back surgery.
Right. 2-0 count to Spear, his first year with the Montreal Expos. Came up in the Kansas City Royals system, a 5th round pick of the Royals back in '88. And all of a sudden, Trevor Wilson, we talked about his problems in walking the leadoff man. And the frustration is growing, as you can see, with a 3-0 count. He has pitched, though, 11 straight quality innings for Dusty Baker. And his pitching coach. Down the middle, 3 balls and a strike. And I'm talking about the 4 so far tonight of 1-run ball. And his last start, 7 scoreless innings. And his start against the Atlanta Braves, he did not figure in that decision. And a 2-0 loss for San Francisco. He's high, and he again walks the leadoff man for the second time over the last 3 innings. He walked to Shields to start the 3rd, but the Expos couldn't do a thing with it, even after sacrificing to Shields down to 2nd.
Well, Dick Cole next to Dusty Baker, lamenting another leadoff walk, and Trevor Wilson throws the ball with so much movement on it that sometimes he really has trouble getting into the zone. That's why Manwaring will sit in the middle of the plate, as we talked about earlier in the ball game. Right now, with Martinez at the plate, you got to expect the bunt here.
They are into the corners. a 2-1 San Francisco lead. 2 runs on 4 hits for the Giants, a run on 5 hits for Montreal. And Martinez is swinging away, but it's a sharply hit one to the shortstop, and they turn 2. Great play by Robbie Thompson with Spear all over him around the second base bag.
Boy, Robbie Thompson really took a lick from the catcher Tim Spear, but he hung right in there. Felipe Alou trying to cross up the Giants, and Clayton gets to the ball, and look at the collision it's saying. Look at Thompson not even shying away from the runner Spear, who was all over him. Hangs in there to complete the double play, and this gamble by Alou backfires as the Giants turn a double play again.
And when you look at the totals at the end of the year for Robbie Thompson, and so often we all look at the offensive numbers, they don't tell an accurate story. Robbie Thompson means far too much to this team as a leader, and what he can do defensively. Pretty tough to find a second baseman in the National League, with maybe the exception of Sandberg, that can turn the double play quite like Robbie Thompson. Thompson, though, will certainly take a lick.
Well, that's why he's beat up half the time he's playing, because he hangs in there, and runners know that he's going to be difficult to take out, so they go in there with a little extra determination.
Ball and a strike now to Delino DeShields. The Dodgers were here last night. We saw a pretty good second baseman who came over from the American League for the Dodgers, former member of the Red Sox, Jody Reed. 2 balls and a strike, and Jody Reed is really enjoying his early days in the National League.
Well, Jody Reed talked to me last night about how he enjoys all the mind games that go on here in the National League with the double switches and the hitting and running. In the American League, there's a tendency to lay back and wait for the offense to take over. Now, there's a pretty good pitch that Wilson didn't get. So many things go on in the National League with double switches, hitting and running. Alou trying to outguess Dusty Baker with the fake bunt and swing away from Martinez.
Outside corner, of full count now to Delino DeShields.
Tommy Harper, the coach of the Expos, so important in their hitting and running aspects here.
Fisted down the left field line. Long run for Barry Bonds, and he gets there. Sensational play by Bonds. So the Expos are gone in the 5th. They do not capitalize again on a leadoff walk by Trevor Wilson, and after 5 are still down by 1. The 4, 5, and 6 hitters coming up for the San Francisco Giants. They have taken 5 of their last 7. What's more impressive when you look at what they've done recently in series, they have taken the last 4 straight. Whether it's 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 like they pulled off at home against the Atlanta Braves, they're winning the series.
Well, we talked about Dusty Baker emphasizing a win in game 1 of any series. He feels that if he can win that first game and then scratch it out for the next couple of games in the series, he will in fact win a lot of series. But he has put an awful lot of emphasis on game 1, just like tonight's game against the Expos.
It's going to be a tough year for the National League's Western Division if Matt Williams keeps up what he's doing now, hitting better than .320. He's 1 for 1 with a walk tonight. He had a single to center his first at bat, drew a walk in the 3rd. Now he starts it off in the 5th. It's a 1-0 delivery coming from Martinez. He is still only 27. You look at Matt Williams, you think he's been around forever.
27 to 30. And a guy really will come into his own, because then he starts to believe in his skills. Then he says, okay, this is where I should be. When you have that much experience, generally you're going to end up within 10 points of your batting average year in and year out. And your production is going to be relatively consistent. You won't have the big roller coaster years like players have a tendency to have earlier in their career. Bobby Bonds has worked very hard with Matt Williams, trying to give him an idea of what his strengths and weaknesses are. You can see the strikeouts have decreased as he gains more confidence and becomes more aware of the pitchers in the league. But Bobby Bonds is very, very much a believer in, when you step to the plate, you have to not have an idea of what you can do.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, we're back to the even innings. Danny Martinez has had his problems.
And look who's hitting.
Matt Williams and Barry Bonds, the first two for the Giants, coming up in the 6th. Helped out Martinez. Strikes him out to start the inning. That is his 5th strikeout so far. The action's incredible. On the off-speed deliveries for Dennis Martinez ever since the first inning.
Now let's watch this third at bat of Barry Bonds. Singled in the first, walked in the third, and to me it looks like he's sitting on breaking ball all night long, like he's made up his mind he's going to get something off speed to hit. He singled on a curveball to left field in the first inning. There's another fastball. He's trying to wait back.
Always interesting to watch the sequence that a pitcher will go through, the pattern he'll work certain hitters. As it's ripped into right, the breaking ball for a 1-out single. Let's head back to the studio now. John Saunders. John?
Well, we'll show you a little good defense here as Budweiser takes you to Three Rivers right now. This drive out to center field, and Steve Finley is after it, grabs it, hauls it in, and gets it back in a hurry. That's Prince trying to get back to first, but he is doubled off. It's 1-1 in the 7th. Joel and Buck.
And Robbie Thompson to the plate for the Giants. A 2-1 lead for San Francisco. Thompson took quite a shot, turning the double play in the last half inning. And Thompson has already missed a number of games with tendonitis in his forearm. This is only his 10th game. He's already got 11 runs driven in. Drove in 49 all of last season. There goes Bonds. The fastball was high. Not in time. Good jump by Barry Bonds.
If Spear doesn't bounce that ball, I believe they get Bonds out. Watch the break at first base. He gets a good jump off Martinez. But the ball's in the dirt, and Cordero has to come up with his glove to make the catch of the bouncing ball. Had that ball been thrown all the way on the air, I think it would have been there in time to get Bonds. Pretty good throw. He just threw it about a foot short.
So Barry now 4 for 4 in the stolen base department after coming up with 39 steals last year. Outside corner. 1-1 to Thompson.
Bonds had a bit of a hamstring during the home opener series in San Francisco, but obviously no problem at all with him. Got a good jump and showed no signs of favoring the leg at all.
Delano DeShields shading towards the second base bag, trying to keep Bonds honest back there. And it's driven into left right at Moises Alou, though. And that is this second out.
Tim Spear just now becoming comfortable with this pitching staff, but you can see they haven't had much success throwing runners out so far this year. Obviously, you need some help from the pitcher, but Denny Martinez gave Tim Spear a pretty good shot right there to throw Bonds out. What happens when a team is not throwing well, the catchers have a tendency to rush the throws, and when you rush the throw, generally you make a bad throw. Spear threw that ball in the dirt short of second base and allowed Bonds to steal it.
So Bonds still in scoring position, but 2 away now. And Royce Clayton takes it outside for ball 1. Well, the National League average on throwing out base runners was 32% last year. Darren Fletcher saw considerable time, threw out 35, or make it 25% of the runners for the Montreal Expos, but they are running and having a good deal of success already, as you saw, 21 of 24.
And that guy right there, Kurt Manwaring, threw out 43%, led the league.
Off the end of the bat, the little looper going back. DeShields has it. Fine play by the second baseman to prevent another run for San Francisco. We head to the last of the 6th. It's still a 1-run game.
The expansion game, Junior Felix is a home run, an RBI single, driven in all 4 runs for the Marlins, got them tied, but Gerald Clark unties it for the Rockies here with his 4th home run of the year. It's 5-4, Colorado with the lead. Joel and Buck.
All right, John, that long ball continues at Mile High Stadium in Denver. Here at Olympic Stadium, it's a pitcher's duel. It's tapped foul over to the left side by Mike Lansing. Now, most teams don't know a lot about Lansing, but that's not the case with Dusty Baker.
Dusty Baker managed in the Arizona Instructional League this past fall and saw Lansing and was really impressed with him, so he has an idea what might work to get him out. He said he was going to try to pound him inside early in the count, see if he could make an adjustment.
Turns on it, but it's just foul.
It's interesting talking about how young hitters adjust and whether or not they can react to the pitchers knowing more about them. When Baker was with the Braves, he was out one night with Rico Carty, Hank Aaron, and Ralph Garp, and Jerry Koosman of the Mets. And Koosman told Baker, you know, you're the toughest hitter in the lineup. And Dusty looked at him. He says, yeah, I don't know you yet. Same goes for Mike Lansing. Soon as pitchers get an idea on what might cause you trouble, they'll wear you out. So far, Mike Lansing hasn't shown any vulnerabilities.
The 1-2 to the leadoff man. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Johnny B. Dusty Baker. Well, not many Dodger fans will ever admit to liking anyone in a Giant uniform, but he is still loved by Dodger fans. They will always remember the 1981 season and what a large part he played in the World Series championship when he hit .325 that year and repeatedly came up with a clutch hit.
Well, see, we talked about managers and how they're able to relate to their players. Now, there's a guy right there in Dusty Baker who's done it on the field. So when he says something, he's speaking from experience, same as Philippe Ballou on the other side of the field.
Lansing pushes it out of play.
So when Baker and Alou go to their players and say, hey, listen, I'd like you to try this, the players say, well, I'll try it. You've got a pretty good idea of what'll work for success in the big leagues. Both of these guys could really hit.
17-year career for Felipe Alou. Lifetime .286 hitter. He made history back in September of '63, playing in the same outfield with his younger brothers Matty and Jay Jesus. 2-2 to the leadoff man, Mike Lansing. Expos down by a run. Lansing going the other way and lifts it into right for Willie McGee. That's the first out of the bottom of the 6th. I asked Felipe last night, we were talking for the Dodger game about that moment in September 1963. Did it mean a lot to you, Felipe, to be playing in the same outfield with your younger brothers? He goes, you know what? We didn't think anything of it at the time. We were just kids. I guess we didn't appreciate the moment. Now we look back and it's very special. But at the time, we were just having a great time playing baseball.
You know, it's really unfortunate that moments like that escape you when you're young and you don't really recognize how significant they are and how rare they are.
Marquise Grissom looking for his first hit of the night. Well wide, and it's 2-0. Power in the on-deck circle if they can get Grissom on base. You know what he'll try to do against Trevor Wilson after picking up 78 steals last year.
Well, once again, Trevor Wilson has given the Giants a real good outing. And he's been able to keep his ball club in front.
We're at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez, a 2-1 Giants lead. Bottom of the 6th. Wilson got the leadoff man. Now Grissom fouls it away. 2 balls and a strike. Real battle between these two pitchers. Early Martinez struggled. A couple of innings ago, it looked like Wilson was losing his composure. He all of a sudden walked a couple of hitters, a couple of leadoff men. But he has battled back as well. The double play ball didn't hurt either. Going the other way, Grissom lifts it deep to right. It's got a chance, and it's gone. That's why he's no longer a leadoff man. It's tied at 2 in the bottom of the 6th.
Marquise Grissom hits his 3rd home run of the year to tie the game up for the Expos, and it's the 3rd home run of the year that Trevor Wilson has given up. It's a fastball that was up and out over the plate, but watch how Grissom just stays on it. Didn't try to muscle it, didn't try to pull it, just takes it the other way and has enough to drive it out in right field. Willie McGee runs out of room, and Grissom ties it up with his solo shot.
That was a problem for Trevor Wilson last year. He gave up 18 home runs. That was the 6th highest total in the league, and some unlikely candidates hit homers off him. In fact, Otis Nixon had only 2 all year long, and they came off Trevor Wilson. Walker, up the middle it goes. A base hit for Walker. And a trip to the mound to talk to Trevor Wilson.
Well, Dick Cole is well aware of Trevor Wilson's intensity and how tough he can be on himself, and he's got to get out there and remind him, listen, young man, it's a tie ball game. You're throwing a heck of a game. Let's get right back in there and come right at these guys. A double play gets you out of this inning. They already have turned 2 double plays so far, and they could use 1 more right here.
Don't forget, Sunday Night Baseball comes your way at 8 o'clock Eastern. The leaders in the West. Yes, those California Angels, led by the home run leader in the American League, J.T. Snow, taking on 3-0 Roger Clemens. The American League Eastern Division, well, Boston's on top with that great 11-5 start. And the California Angels in the West, incredibly, at 9-4 after their first 13 for manager Buck Rogers. So the top 2 teams in the American League going at it Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Moises Alou. He had a base hit to left. Little looper his last time up there. He was taken care of in a double play ball. And now the go-ahead run is aboard. And when you look at Moises Alou, he had a very high doubles total last year. At only 341 at bats, he had 28 doubles. Walker, for a big man with better than average speed, over at first. And at ball 1. First activity of the night.
Gino Minatelli is up throwing. Right behind Trevor Wilson. Bullpen has been pretty good outside of the last 3 games. They have been outstanding. Good mix of lefties and righties down there.
We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. New ball game for Trevor Wilson. He had been nursing a 2-1 lead ever since the 2nd. And now Grissom goes the other way for his 3rd home run of the year. That's followed by the very next pitch. It's Larry Walker up the middle for a base hit. 2-0.
You might wonder why Trevor Wilson worries about Larry Walker. He stole 18 last year and has stole as many as 21 in this season. He can run, so Wilson's aware of his base stealing abilities.
Already a couple of double play balls, though, turned by the Giants tonight. That's what they're looking for with 1 away. Now 3-0. Now Trevor Wilson in trouble. Does he make it right down the middle? Is it a perfect one for Felipe's son Moises at the plate?
I think he'll give him the option of swinging. And I think he's giving him green light here.
3-1. And it looked like he turned it over a little bit.
Trevor Wilson just a double play ball away from getting out of this inning. Solo home run by Grissom and then a single by Walker. But he's gotten a couple of double plays already tonight.
As Buck just mentioned, 18 steals for Walker last year in 24 attempts. Outstanding success ratio.
For you people that haven't seen Larry Walker an awful lot, this guy is the whole package. Great hitter, outstanding fielder, and he can run.
There he goes on the 3-1. A fly ball for center fielder Dave Martinez. And that is the 2nd out. Well, we were watching Larry Walker in the batting cage last night. You said to Tim Johnson as he kept stroking it out of the park. Is he really that strong? The Expos coach turned to you and said he is the real deal.
Yeah, they don't even mess with him. You know, here's a hockey player. He was headed towards the National Hockey League as a junior A player and got released by the Regina Pats in the Western Hockey League as a goalie. And then at that point he said, hey, I better concentrate on baseball. I guess I'll never get to the NHL. People in Montreal are pretty pleased that he did.
So it's going to be up to the 21-year-old shortstop, Will Cordero. Well, we've seen it over the last couple of innings. Trevor Wilson walked the leadoff man in the fifth. Escaped that jam with the help of a double play ball. But consistently falling behind the hitters now in the sixth. He was behind Grissom when he gave up the home run. 3-1. He got Moises Alou. See what he brings now on the 1-0 delivery to Cordero as Walker leads away from first. Caught fouling out of play. It's a ball and a strike.
And Joel, let's look back to the Giants' first inning. They got 4 consecutive hits but could only score 2 runs. They stranded runners at second and third. And they actually let Dennis Martinez off the hook in the first inning. And you can bet Dusty Baker is thinking back to that first inning, said, man, we could have chased this guy early. But now the Expos have scratched and clawed their way back to a 2-2 tie.
That's where it stands with 2 away in the bottom of the sixth. Trevor Wilson, 7 innings in his last start. No decision in that outing against the Atlanta Braves. Good play by Manwaring behind the plate. 2-1.
This is a good time for Larry Walker to gamble at first base. It's a tie game. 2 balls and a strike. There are 2 outs. We got Cordero at the plate. Go ahead and take a gamble. If Cordero should drive one in the alley, he can score.
Will they put on the hit and run? No, he's not on the move. Fouled away. 2-2.
We saw the Expos gamble early when they had Greg Colburn thrown out at the plate trying to score on a bobbled base hit by Dave Martinez. Robbie Thompson with a heads-up play fired to Manwaring, and they got him out at the plate to end the inning. So Felipe Alou is of the gambling state of mind this year. He's going to try to force the offense.
Short lead by Walker. And now it's a full count, and he will get that head start. So if Cordero can come up with the extra base hit. And he does have 5 doubles already this year to go along with his first triple, which he picked up in his first at bat tonight. The Expos could have their first lead of the evening. The 3-2 driven to right center field. Martinez on the move over his head. It's off the wall. It'll bring Walker around, and the Expos do have their first lead. And they got a break when it didn't hop over the wall but hit the top of the wall. It easily could have been a ground rule double.
Yeah, if it goes over the wall, Walker doesn't score. But what about Will Cordero? Take a look at this 3-2 pitch from Trevor Wilson out away from him, and he hammers it. Up the alley in right center. Martinez can't catch up to it. It's just shy of the warning track, and as Joe pointed out, stayed in the ballpark. That allowed Walker to score all the way from first base, and Dusty Baker's out, and I think we're going to have a pitching change.
It is going to be Minatelli, another left-hander coming in for San Francisco. We'll be right back to Montreal. ESPN's Friday Night Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light. And by Rheem Air Conditioning and Heating. It works like a Rheem. So Trevor Wilson is gone after working 5 2/3. He's knocked out in the 6th after the home run by Grissom. Base hit by Walker, and then the double by Cordero to give Montreal their first lead of the evening. They're on top 3-2. The left-hander Minuttelli facing Greg Colbert, the first baseman. Minuttelli, a 6-footer, native of San Diego, just called up recently, worked an inning and 2/3 on Tuesday night. So he came up from the Giants AAA affiliate just last week. And he was very effective. Gave up only 1 hit and didn't allow a run. Even now to the first man he faces, at a ball and a strike. He grew up in the Cincinnati Reds system. He's low, and it's 2 balls and a strike. Insurance run down at second. And Will Cordero, who can move.
Well, it's interesting that the Giants came in here concerned about Mike Lansing, and it's another young player that does them in so far tonight. Cordero with a triple and a double has put the Expos up on top with his double here.
Colbert already has 1 RBI and lifts it deep to center field. Martinez back, and it's gone. First home run of the year for Greg Colbert, and a 5-2 lead for Montreal.
Colbert with great power gets a ball about belt high out over the plate and drives it towards center. Dave Martinez has a bead on it, but runs out of room as it sails over the center field wall for Colbert's first home run of the year.
He has driven in 3 of the 5 Expo runs tonight. And all of a sudden, Montreal with a 3-run cushion by way of a 4-run 6th inning, and they are still hitting. It's catcher Tim Spear. He's been on base with a walk his last at bat, flied out to the left fielder. So Minuttelli with a rude greeting. First man he faces takes it to straightaway center. Straightaway here is 404 feet, but does it ever die in center field in the power alleys here? They talk about Busch Stadium being a tough ballpark, but we were talking to some of the players last night. They said you get it inside the markers where they have the 375 sign on each side, you can usually yank it, but to go to the gaps, it is tough.
It's a big ballpark. Greg Colbert went dead center. You can see the expansive Olympic Stadium outfield. Wasn't big enough to hold Colbert. You know, first base has been a key point for the Expos, and they had Lee Stevens in here in spring training and expected him to be their first baseman. But they have high expectations of this guy. Look at a teammate checking out his pipe, saying, man, are you that strong? Go center field. But he can swing that lumber.
The 3-2 fouled away again. Now, where does Jack Clark fit into the picture? Because Jack Clark is in extended spring training. He was hitting pitches from John Wetland just a few days ago. Wetland activated today by the Montreal Expos. Maybe tough for Clark the way these guys are going to find some at-bats.
Well, Felipe Alou is going to stick with a hot bat. We've seen him do that already with Mike Lansing. When Delino DeShields came back, they simply moved Lansing over to third base to keep his bat in the lineup.
A strikeout from Minuttelli. But Colbert came through with the big one with 2 away. A 2-run shot as the Expos now lead it by 3 after 6. A 4-run 6th inning makes it a 5-2 lead now for the Montreal Expos. Joel Myers line with Buck Martinez. The big blow coming from that young man over at first base in his first game back after coming off the disabled list. Greg Colbert. Kurt Manwaring will lead it off for the Giants as they're trailing for the very first time this evening. They had 2 in the first, and that has been it against right-hander Dennis Martinez. Slow roller for the shortstop Cordero. 1 pitch and 1 out. get another update with John Saunders.
Baltimore struggling on the mound. Mark Williamson on in relief, facing Brian McRae with a couple of runners aboard. And that pitch is up, and it's out. 3-run home run as the Royals are rolling 7-0. McReynolds also has a solo shot, his second of the year. Joel and Buck.
There's another father-son combination in Kansas City. Brian McRae and Hal McRae, the manager. Kansas City off to a slow start, and they're starting to turn it around as Jeff Reed steps in to pinch hit for the pitcher against Dennis Martinez.
Has that fastball tailing away from the left-handed hitter for strike one. 3 for 13 so far this season. Giants backup catcher. Former Montreal Expos, been in the Cincinnati Reds organization the last few years. Well, you couldn't have expected Dennis Martinez to be around this long if you were with us earlier. 60 pitches over the first 3. Really struggled when he gave up 2 in the first. The Giants left 2 aboard. And with 2 away, there were runners at second and third, but they couldn't capitalize. Reed really on top of the plate. And it's 2-1.
Well, Dennis Martinez needs an outing where he can really stretch it out, and that's what he's done here tonight. Boy, after that first inning, he has been in command. We talked about him wanting to get more of a downward break on his curveball. He's done that tonight. He's had good command of his fastball, working to both sides of the plate. And his split finger pitch has been very effective all night long.
2-1 to the pinch hitter. 3 balls and a strike. Martinez gave up 4 consecutive hits in the first. He's only given up 1 base hit since. And that came in the 6th inning to Barry Bonds. He just threw pitch number 100.
And Joe Kerrigan is not really that concerned about pitch count with Dennis Martinez. He's going to look more at velocity and movement and command. He won't be real pleased about base on balls when you got a 3-run lead, though.
3rd walk issued by Martinez. The first he has allowed since the 3rd. But he had back-to-back walks to Williams and Bonds. But a very encouraging sign for the Montreal Expos. Mel Rojas has been the stopper until this Friday evening because John Wetland was activated. Wetland had 37 saves last year. Rojas already with 5 saves this year. It's fouled away by Willie McGee. Tough night at the plate for McGee. He struck out his last 2 times up after flying out to the left fielder.
McGee's going through a bit of a tough time mentally right now. Bobby Bonds and he had a little session during batting practice, and Bonds was trying to build up his confidence, saying, hey, you've got a good swing right now. Just go ahead and trust it. Don't be so impatient. Don't be so hard on yourself. We talked about that with pitchers, and hitters will do the same things, think themselves right into a slump.
Great breaking ball, still working in the 7th inning for Martinez.
When you're not hitting well, you have a tendency to be over anxious, want to go out and get the pitch out in front of you. Whereas opposed to when you're really hitting the ball well, you sit back on that back leg and you wait and you're quick with your hands. There's the pitch count up to 102 now.
The 0-2. Ball and 2 strikes to McGee with Jeff Reed, the backup catcher, over at first after that 1-out walk. When you had problems as a player, Buck, especially at the plate.
That was all the time.
That was. I wasn't going to say good field no hit, buddy. You just did. Sometimes I've heard players say they were going to open their stance. They weren't going to take a stride. They were going to let their hands do everything. The 1-2 to McGee. What did you do to get out of a major collar?
I broke my hand once. I was 1 for 52 and broke my hand, and that ended the slump. I tell you, I watched great hitters like George Brett and Cecil Cooper and Larry Heisel over the years, and you're right, boy, when they're going through a tough time, generally it's the body that causes you more problems. You get the body out in front. So during batting practice, they will sit back on that back leg and just use their hands, try to flip the head of the bat at the ball. That eliminates all the movement in your body, which also moves your head at the same time, and the ball starts jumping around on you.
The 1-2 to McGee, driven up the middle for a solid single, his first of the night. And the Giants quickly have something cooking here with one away in the 7th. We talked about it earlier. Don't forget the NFL Draft Sunday on ESPN with Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, and former Bills general manager Bill Polian. And don't forget about Tom Jackson. He will be at the site of the #1 pick in the draft, and that's the New England Patriots. It'll be at the Patriots headquarters to find out what's going on there. 6.5 hours of coverage. Live reports from the Cowboys, Bucks, Bears, Eagles headquarters as well. So be with us on Sunday. It all begins at noon Eastern. The 8 rounds of the NFL Draft. 5-2 Montreal. But now Dennis Martinez in a precarious position as the big guys are waiting to hit. Right after Dennis Martinez, it's Clark and Williams to follow. Can he get the double play ball? Can he induce Martinez into the ground ball? Outside corner. He'll take the strikeout too.
Well, getting ahead is always to the pitcher's advantage. Now Dave Martinez has to think about curveball, split finger pitch, or an inside fastball. Dennis has several options. Boy, when you get ahead, you certainly take some of that aggressiveness away from the hitter.
Trying to keep it away from the left-handed hitter. The ball and a strike. One away. The lead runner is Reed down at second. McGee with the base hit is over at first. And the tying run is Dave Martinez at the plate with Will Clark in the on-deck circle. The 1-1. Shoots it foul. Dave Martinez 2 for 3 so far this evening. And for Dennis Martinez, when he's got the good breaking ball working, he gets a lot of ground balls.
Ground balls are a result of a hitter being out in front of the pitch. When you take something off of pitch, you get out on that front leg, top the ball. Changing speeds and throwing a fastball with good movement will produce an awful lot of ground balls, and that's what Martinez has done tonight.
Well, we've got Dennis on the hill, Dave at the plate, Buck in the booth. I'm not confused, though. It's outside. And it's 2-2.
Family reunion here in Montreal. You know, I think there were more Martinez's in the big leagues last year than any other name.
Here on target there.
Carlos in Cleveland, Cheeto in Baltimore. 2 Martinez's in L.A.
Yes. Ramon and Pedro. Dennis in a jam with 2 on and only 1 down. The 2-2 to Dave Martinez. He's picking up the pitches pretty well, and you can get the feeling that he feels like his best chance is going the other way.
Wow. Dennis has stayed away from him. He hasn't shown him anything inside. Dave Martinez very quick on the inner half of the plate. Dennis is trying to get that ground ball. You can see the defense shortened up the middle, playing a double play depth. The outfield straight away as the hitter utilizes the whole field.
And Dave knows he's got to start hitting. He was only hitting 148 coming in tonight because Darren Lewis is on the bench, and he'd love to see more at-bats out in center field. The 2-2. Breaking ball was tight.
Moved him off the plate. Now let's see if Dennis goes back away. This is where a hitter has to make up your mind, one side or the other. Just say, okay, he's trying to get me outside. That's what Bobby Bonds is trying to impress upon these hitters. Have an idea where the pitcher is going when he needs to get an out.
Well, the runners be going with only 1 away. Here comes the 3-2. Dennis wanted to find out. Reed staying close to second. McGee can get a big lead over at first with Colburn way back and hugging the line, guarding against the extra base hit. And here comes the payoff pitch to Dave Martinez. The breaking ball. Missed the tag, but gets the out over at first. So runners advancing to second and third. As that's the second out of the inning. Let's head back to John Saunders now.
Budweiser now taking us out to St. Louis, where the Braves' Tom Glavine has just been rolling through 5. There's a strikeout there, and he has yet to allow a hit as they move to the 6th inning. We'll keep you updated, Joel and Buck.
All right, John, thank you. 2 great pitching staffs going at it in a 3-game set in Atlanta. The Cardinals' young arms looking strong in the early going as Dennis Martinez has 2 down. And here comes Felipe Alou.
Let's take a look at that last ground ball. The Shields trying to cut Willie McGee off, but McGee has such good speed. He gets around him. Look at the umpire right there on top of the plate, signaling safe, and the fact that McGee didn't run out of the baseline. But that's all for Dennis Martinez as he gives way here to the bullpen in the top of the 7th inning.
With Dennis Martinez with 6 2/3 work and very strong work. A couple of runners aboard with 2 away now for the San Francisco Giants as they trail by 3 in the top of the 7th. Joel Myers and Buck Martinez. And Dennis Martinez in the dugout now after a very encouraging performance of 6 2/3. He is still responsible for the 2 at 2nd and 3rd. He threw 113 pitches. And encouraging because he really battled after a very difficult start tonight in the 1st inning when he gave up both runs. So Brian Barnes, the left-hander, comes in to face the left-hander Will Clark. But not your ordinary left-hander at the plate, and lefties don't give him problems.
They sure don't. Will Clark hit .307 against left-handers last year compared to .295 against right-handers. He is very strong out over the plate, and that's why he's so good against left-handed pitchers.
Clark is 1 for 3 tonight, had an RBI double to knock in the 1st run for the Giants back in the 1st. And Barnes with the slow stuff to start it off for strike 1. Barnes, or make it Clark rather, 8th best in the National League last year at hitting in this situation. 2 away and men in scoring position. He saw their career mark of .325. Tough numbers. These are the clutch situations where they need Clark and Bonds to come through along with Matt Williams. Driven up the middle, the center fielder Grissom all turned around and still makes the catch. Unbelievable.
That's the way things have gone for Will Clark lately. Another line drive hit on the button. But watch the outfield play by Marquise Grissom. He's going to his right and then has to turn around, reach over his head to make the catch. And once again, Will Clark can't buy a hit.
It's 7th inning stretch time in Montreal. Another left-hander out of the hill for the San Francisco Giants to work to the Expos in the bottom of the 7th. Veteran Dave Righetti. And Brian Barnes stays in the contest to hit, taking strike 1.
This is the 7th game for Dave Righetti. He won that ball game in New York against the Mets on Tuesday night. Veteran left-hander. Pitching in a different role this year for the Giants. But he's a versatile guy that can pitch late for you if you need it.
To count to the pitcher. He goes after one outside. And that's the way it starts for Dave Righetti as we head back to John Saunders. John.
Philadelphia Phillies in the Dodgers as Budweiser takes a look at Curt Schilling, who picks up his 2nd shutout of the year, 6th on his career, had a career-high 9 strikeouts on a 5-hitter. They shut out the Dodgers 2-0.
There's another hitting ball club that's getting some very good pitching right now, the Philadelphia Phillies.
Delino to Shields. Takes the breaking ball for strike 1. Double, a walk. And then he hit a blooper down the line and left. Barry Bonds took care of it right on the line. It's tight. It's a ball and a strike from Righetti. Well, Dave Righetti, the last pitcher to no-hit the Boston Red Sox until last night. July 4th, 1983. Righetti no-hit Boston. And last night it was Chris Bosio of the Seattle Mariners. DeShields holds up in time. It's 2 balls and a strike. Only the second no-hitter in Mariner history. Randy Johnson with the other. And that 7-0 victory. Now what a way for Bosio to do it. He started the game by walking the first 2 he faced. Got a double play ball and then retired the next 25 straight. Up the middle, Righetti loses his glove. Royce Clayton with a sensational play, but pulls Clark off the bag. Infield hit for Delano DeShields.
Righetti waved at that ball as it went over the rubber and his glove fell off, but it was incredible the range shown by Royce Clayton, who was on the right field side of second base. DeShields takes it right back up the middle. Look at Righetti wave at it, try to knock it down. His glove comes off, but take a look at this shot right by Dave Righetti. Kind of a defensive swipe at the ball, but Royce Clayton knocked it down, came up with it, but couldn't get the speedy DeShields at first.
Well, the pitch was 86 miles an hour. How fast was the glove traveling? So DeShields, who had 46 steals last year, he's aboard at first with 1 away. And Mike Lansing. Talked about him at the top of the telecast. He's been very quiet for one of the few times this year and watches it over the outside edge for strike 1. He is 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. Struck out, fly it out to the right fielder. He's driven in 14 already this year. Good line drive hitter. He's got 3 home runs, but basically a good gap line drive hitter. A 5-2 Montreal lead in the bottom of the 7th. Now they're coming up to the middle of their batting order. So the pitch is right down the middle, and it's 0-2. It's always fun when you have the great stories like Mike Lansing early in the season. You only hope that they last the entire year. Great kid. Gets away, but Manwaring does a super job of keeping it out in front. You know all about that, Buck.
Boy, he does a good job. He's breaking ball in the dirt. We talked about Manwaring having confidence, knowing he's going to play every day, and that helps out every aspect of your game. Right there, good position. He's got the speedy DeShields on the bases, so he gets rid of the mask and holds DeShields right at first base. Always been a good thrower. 39% so far this year.
Outside 2-2. The confidence started for Manwaring last year. Not only on the defensive department, but he posted just about every offensive category. He came up with career highs, and he's starting off solid in the offensive department again.
Anytime you think that you have to produce in order to play the next game, it's going to be very difficult for you to perform. That's not the case anymore with Manwaring.
There goes DeShields. The throw by Manwaring. In time. Just barely got him. The tag by Robbie Thompson.
What a throw by Manwaring. Quick with the feet. Strong arm. It really got a boost by a quick tag from the second baseman. Take a look how quick he gets himself in throwing position. Watch Robbie Thompson with the tag. Boom. Actually got the tag on him before he snuck a hand in there. Look how quick he gets rid of the ball. Gets everything done behind the plate. Quick tag by Thompson. Look, boom, right before he sticks that hand in there.
So the bases are empty as Lansing laces it foul down the left side. Remains a full count.
Let's take a look at that last stolen base attempt by DeShields. Watch his jump at first base. Gets a decent jump against Righetti. But Manwaring firing out of the chute, and a quick tag by Robbie Thompson shoots DeShields down at second.
3-2 pitch. Line drive single to left for Lansing. His first of the night as he's now 1 for 3. Well, the Expos trailed for most of the game until the 6th inning. They had tied it up at 2 until Marquise Grissom came to the plate, and he went the other way on Trevor Wilson.
Watch the height of the fastball. About letter high away from Grissom, and he drives it out to right field. He's got good power to all parts of the ballpark and tied it up with that solo shot back in the 6th.
Over the outside edge for strike one. So Lansing aboard now. He had better than 40 steals at the Double-A level last year. Didn't look like much of a lead, though, as we saw that replay of Delino to Shields. Now Lansing, at least he's got a foot out of the carpet, drawing the throw from Righetti. And I always watch the carpet on the AstroTurf surfaces to get a gauge of how much the base runner thinks he can get away with.
Some of the better base stealers around baseball won't get a huge lead. They'll rely on the explosive first step. They don't want to tip the pitcher off with that enormous lead.
DeShields with a base hit into the gap. Can Martinez get to it? Yes, but there goes Lansing around third. He'll score easily. 6-2 Montreal. Another RBI on the double by Grissom.
Keith Grissom once again with a fastball, rips it toward the alley in left center. Dave Martinez, a left-handed fielding center fielder, has to spin all the way around and caught his spikes on the warning track. That's the result. I don't think they had a shot at Lansing anyway. Grissom drives the ball up the alley and picks up another ribby.
Larry Walker losing his bat on the play for strike one. Some of these young Expos show incredible bat speed. We just saw it on that replay from Marquise Grissom.
They just like to hit. Philippe Alou has these guys believing in their abilities, and you can see Walker with one hit tonight, and he's right at 400. And he was out with a bad hamstring.
Expos looking for their 5th straight win. Inside edge. Righetti gets the call, and it's 0-2. Dickerson warming up in the Giants bullpen. The Montreal Expos were 7-9 after 16 games last year. 10-6 coming in tonight, and on a roll at home. And that was the difference that they wanted to make up. Home and taking advantage of those home opportunities. It's inside, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. They were only 43-38. And for a team that picked up as many victories as they did last year, to be only 5 games over the 500 mark at home last year, it just didn't make any sense.
Well, their speed and line drive gap hitting ability should be very good in this ballpark.
Rolled over to Robbie Thompson to get the big hop. And that's the final out of the inning, but Grissom comes through again for the Montreal Expos with the 2-out RBI double. And now it's a 4-run cushion. The Montreal Expos with a 6-2 lead over the San Francisco Giants in the first of 3. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez. Expos came in the highest scoring team in the National League, and that 3rd time against Trevor Wilson, they finally got to him.
Even though they're young, they're pretty aware hitters, and when they saw Trevor Wilson for the 3rd time, they jumped all over him, and they took advantage of some bad pitches up in the strike zone and really hammered him, and eventually chased him out of the ballgame.
Well, Barrett Bonds is getting ready to come up. It'll be Matt Williams leading things off the San Francisco Giants. And let's not forget the Giants have been hitting in some tough luck tonight, too. They have had opportunities. They left runners at 2nd and 3rd in the 1st after scoring 2. They didn't capitalize on that opportunity. And then Will Clark scorched one to center field with runners at 2nd and 3rd. One was a 5-2 game in the last at bat for San Francisco. And Marquise Grissom spun around, still was able to make the play.
I think Clark hit that ball so hard it was actually a knuckleball to center.
A 6-2 Montreal advantage.
That Tiger team will make catchers paranoid of giving signals. 10 runs again. Kansas City starting to come back. Houston, pretty interesting club in the West in the National League. Bobby Bonilla. Trimmed down Bobby Bonilla with a couple of home runs.
Matt Williams pulls it for Mike Lansing. Not his normal position, third, but still looks strong. He talked about that. He joined us late, making the adjustment, playing Double-A ball last year at short. And this year, most of his time has been at second and third.
Well, Felipe Alou said anybody that can play shortstop can play any position on the infield. And he's very comfortable with Mike Lansing, who just showed us a very strong arm firing across the infield. There you see him calling in Lansing in from third base. They're going to really keep an eye on his defensive positioning. And both Felipe Alou and Tim Johnson will move him around from time to time.
They have not been able to keep Barry Bonds off the bases tonight. He's 2 for 2 with a walk. And Brian Barnes gets it over for strike one. Average above 400 now. Interesting column on Barry Bonds. I think it was the last issue of USA Today's Baseball Weekly, where he says, I think of me first, and I do that because I know if I take care of myself and play well, my teammates are going to feed off me. We're all going to do well.
It was interesting to hear the teammates comment on what he has meant to this ball club. They didn't really know an awful lot about him other than what they saw from him in a Pirate uniform, but you can see he's done things that no other players have done in the past. And he actually raises the level of play of his teammates. Not only does he do it with the bat, but he does it defensively in left field. And as we saw earlier, he can steal bases for you.
2-1 count to Bonds. Lefty against lefty. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Is it going to mean more to Matt Williams maybe than anybody else in the batting order, though, because he's hitting in front of Barry Bonds?
Well, you know, that was a point of controversy in San Francisco all the way back into spring training. A lot of people felt Bonds should hit fourth, but Dusty Baker made a bold move and said, I'm going to put Matt Williams in the 4th spot. I think it will help Matt Williams to have Bonds behind him and force the pitchers to come into Matt Williams. Bonds is such a good hitter, he'll be able to protect himself because he's so patient. Matt Williams might want to force the issue if he were batting 5th and Bonds were batting 4th. He might not have the same kind of pitches that he has gotten hitting in front of Bonds.
It's a full count to Barry. 1 away, the base is empty, and a 4-run Montreal lead. Barry Bonds, center field for Marquise Grissom. He's got it just short of the warning track. Don't forget, coming up next, most of you will see that game in Oakland, California. One of the hottest hitting teams in baseball, the Cleveland Indians, taking on the Oakland A's. The Indians now with a .297 team batting average. Consistency offensively up and down that lineup.
7 starters in the Indians lineup hitting over 300, led by Albert Bell and Carlos Baerga.
The fly ball off the bat of Robbie Thompson. Grissom says, I've got it. He does. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Brian Barnes. He set down all 4 that he has faced since taking over for Dennis Martinez. ESPN's Friday Night Baseball is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. By Turtle Wax Color Magic, enriches your car's color. Turtle Wax Color Magic. And by Black & Decker. Look for great deals available now during Black & Decker's Home Improvement Days. Back at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, Joel Myers, Buck Martinez, and a 6-2 Expo lead as they hit in the bottom of the 8th inning. 6 runs on 12 hits for Montreal. Dennis Martinez with a positive start tonight, trying to pick up his first win of the year after starting out 0-3. Worked the first 6 2/3. And Moises Alou pops it fouling out of play. It's 0-2. He did make a run for Rookie of the Year honors last year until he suffered a hamstring injury in July. At the time, he was hitting .316 with a .509 slugging percentage. Came back, 3-week slump. He lost that momentum he had. Most memorable at bat, without a doubt. the grand slam late September against the Pirates in the 14th inning. A game right here on ESPN, and he tied it up in the 9th inning to send it to overtime.
Many of these young Expo players really gained a lot of confidence last year. The way they battled the Pirates right down to the end made them believe in their abilities.
The 1-2 stays upstairs. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Another aspect of what Felipe Alou does for this ball club is he makes sure that the players don't get too impressed with themselves, reminding them, hey, it's a difficult thing to win in the major leagues, and we got to work every single day, so don't spend too much time patting yourself on the back for things you've already accomplished. Got a lot of work to be done yet.
Fly ball for the center fielder Dave Martinez. That's the way the Expos' 8th begins.
Look at Dennis Martinez out of the game, still right on the bench there. It's a very good ball club, isn't it? Everybody's pulling for everybody else, and Dennis wants to stay out here and watch this game to completion.
On this team this year, his contemporaries are the coaches. There are so many kids that are 23 and 24. It's got to be a kick, though, for 37-year-old Dennis Martinez. Will Cordero, big night tonight. RBI double, a triple, came around to score, and also grounded into a double play. Inside 2-0. Cordero hit .302 in 45 games. The ripe old age of 20 for the Expos last year. Fisted foul. At the age of 17, he became the youngest player ever invited to the Expos Major League training camp in 1989.
Well, Cordero comes from Puerto Rico, and a lot of the Latin players have the benefit of playing in a very competitive winter league in their home country. Cordero plays for the Mayagüez Indios at Puerto Rico, and he really has some experience that's a little better quality than AAA baseball.
He is not your prototypical shortstop. He's going to provide some pop in the middle of the batting order, or in the middle of the infield, rather. As tonight we're at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. What a great city. And the Expos on their way to their 5th straight win. And we saw most of the city on the way to the ballpark. We took the tour. Buck drove today.
Just got lost a little bit.
Full count to the shortstop.
We got here, though.
Glad we left the hotel real early. At times last year, Cordero seemed overmatched by good fastballs, but you talked about the way he bulked up during the offseason. It's already paid off. Sends this one deep to left field. Goodbye. The weight room pays off again. Rapidly turning into the Will Cordero show. 3 extra base hits tonight for Cordero. 9 total bases in all.
Take a look at this swing by young Will Cordero. No doubt about that one. He jumped all over the pitch from Dave Righetti, and watch Righetti's reaction on the mound. Who are these guys?
And where did they come from? It is going to be a very entertaining Eastern Division race this year. I felt coming in, Buck, that it was the most wide open of all the divisions, the National League Eastern Division.
I think just about everybody in the division has a chance to run at the title, except the Marlins and maybe the Pirates, who really have some question marks in their pitching staff. But this is a very exciting young team with some marvelously talented young players. And this guy right here hit one out to center field his last time up.
The next one to Colburn, turns on it, just fouled. It's a ball and 2 strikes. Let's look back at the last at bat for Colburn.
Take a look at this swing. Fastball, middle of the plate, and he drives it to center field. His first home run of the season, a 2-run shot to dead center, and then Cordero with a 2-run homer.
If the ballpark looks extra large from that camera shot, believe me, it is. You don't pick up too many cheap home runs here. The slow roller off the bat of Colburn. He can run. He's got a base hit. Tough chance for Matt Williams.
Matt Williams playing deep because of Colburn's power. On the swinging bunt, tried to barehand the ball, the only chance he had. Big swing, tapper off the plate. Look how deep Matt Williams is. Comes from way back at third and knows the only chance he has is to barehand it and couldn't come up with it. That'll be a base hit for Colburn, his 3rd of the night.
And the 14th hit of the night for the Montreal Expos, as they've busted it wide open with 4 in the 6th, and now single tallies in the 7th and 8th. 7-2 Montreal. And Tim Spear looks at it for ball 1. It was a 2-1 Giant lead going into the bottom of the 6th. Grissom got the equalizer, and then the Expos took off. So the Montreal Expos on their way to an 11-6 record. Talked about the way they started out last year at 7-9 after 16 games. They eventually finished up at 87-75, second place finish. The Pirates in the East. Williams cradles it. Can they turn 2 with Spear running? Clark is off the bag. Interesting play over at first base.
I think Will Clark forgot how many outs there were. He was running toward the dugout, and that won't happen very often to Will Clark. But I think he lost track of the outs, and he was headed into the dugout. He just pointed at himself. That's my fault.
You got it, Buck.
Let's take a look at this last play. Watch Will Clark. He has to scamper back to try to make the tag. He'd forgotten how many outs there were, and he was headed into the dugout. You won't see that happen very often. It's been that kind of month for Will Clark.
And not making excuses for the San Francisco Giants, because they just took 2 out of 3 and have played really well in recent weeks. They got in last night at about 3 o'clock in the morning. By the time they got to the hotel, it was after 4, about 4:30. Tough trip into Montreal and a tougher opener to this 3-game set. The big blow in the 8th, Will Cordero going deep against Dave Righetti, is now the Expos lead it by 5. Last chance time for the Giants as we head to the 9th. Welcome back to Montreal. The Expos in charge as we move to the top of the 9th inning. A 7-2 lead, the opener of the 3-game set with the Giants. And now Brian Barnes looking for his 2nd save of the season. Don't forget when he came into the contest to face Will Clark in the 7th. 2 were aboard, and Clark represented the tying run. At the time, it was a 5-2 Montreal lead. Barnes doing an outstanding job. He's retired all 4 that he has faced. His first save came against the Dodgers in the previous series. He worked 3 innings. Saved that game for Jones, and Jones raised his record to 3-0. Royce Clayton pops it up behind the second base bag. Grissom calling off DeShields. And now Montreal 2 outs away from their 5th straight. Bottom of the batting order, it'll bring up Kurt Manwaring. He's 0 for 3, but he has looked sensational behind the plate. And Barnes wasting no time. Giants took the season series from Montreal, winning 7 of the 12 games last year. Plenty of fly ball outs from John Barnes. There's 5 outs, 4 fly balls to Marquise Grissom. And that's driven into the gap. Can Grissom catch up with this one? Yes, he's there. Keeping Grissom busy.
Well, a big part of the field, when you got good defending outfielders, you utilize them. Dennis Martinez in line to pick up his first win of the season. And he danced off the hook in the first inning when the Giants had him on the ropes. He allowed 2, but stranded 2, and that's been the difference in this ballgame. 1 more out. Yes, sir, Dennis. That'll make everybody happy here in Montreal.
So Dennis Martinez about to pick up his first win. His record will be 1-3. As Craig Colbert is the pinch hitter for San Francisco. If he gets Colbert, it'll be 2 1/3 innings in picking up the save for Brian Barnes. Lefty looking very effective. Driven for Marquise Grissom again. And when Barnes was on the hill, Grissom retired everybody but 1 for Brian. What a night for Will Cordero. Grissom got him even, but Cordero came through like so many of the other young Expos. And don't forget to join John Miller and Joe Morgan. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Top 2 teams in the East and the West of the American League. The Red Sox taking on the California Angels. Clemens at 3-0. Scheduled to go up against one of those that is tied for the home run lead, JT Snow in the American League. So Buck Martinez now 1-3 on the season. And for Buck Martinez, I'm Joel Myers. Thank you for joining us. Let's head back to the studios now after this Expo victory and join John Saunders.